Okay, I believe we're all back with Zach.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. I'll call this meeting back in session. And
Mayor, can I say something just as part of the report?
Sure.
Just thank y'all for the birthday wishes, and, Saturday was actually my birthday, and I had the best time just getting up, enjoying being up here on the mountain, riding my motorcycle, and it, went out to Lincoln, then out to, the inn, rode out that way, and me and Chief Chavez were riding around on the motorcycles, but what a beautiful place to live.
And it's nice when you get to actually enjoy it instead of working there all
So
the
to
time.
clarify that, you were on separate motorcycles?
Yeah,
Just want to make sure.
Chief was in the sidecar. I'm just kidding.
Because I got this view of the chief holding on, it's like, oh no.
Watch out.
all right. So we finished with the manager's report. And we'll go ahead now and move with reports from municipal officials. And we'll start down there with Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, a shout out to Parks and Rec again for all the work they've done with especially the White Mountain Sports Complex. It is pristine, and we get a lot of compliments from people on the walking trail. Secondly, the Humane Society is having their great Catsby, it's a pun on J.F. Fitzgerald, for their spay and neuter as well as their Humane Society clinic, and that'll be the 11th. And given all the comments by Ms. Reynolds, it might be well to remember that. The last one is actually referencing page 47 of the manager's report. I think recognition needs to be given to Ron Sena as well as the folks who work with him for many of the applications for matching grants that are often in our favor by a good many percentage points, and the successes that he's had. That's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. All well noted. Councilor Coughlin?
I was worried Counselor Jackson was going to go on longer than me because he had a whole page of notes there.
Prudent. He's prudent.
Yeah, he's pretty good. School's starting, just to remind everybody, school zones are going to be enforced by the police department. Don't be getting no tickets zooming through there. What is it, 15 miles an hour? And that seems like you could walk faster, but it's still the speed limit. Don't go zooming past school buses that put up their stop signs. And then and I don't remember her name, was talking about the feral cats. It's a huge problem all over the place. Unfortunately, the Humane Society doesn't have enough funds, and the vets don't have the capacity to really address the problem. One female can have 2 to 3 litters per year. Councilor Jackson talked about the event going on Thursday to raise some funds. But then also, shelters across the country are just overwhelmed with cats and dogs right now. And I know our shelter's having a hard time. They do a great job of transferring them out to various rescues. And they've been calling across the country trying to find places to take some of the animals. And everybody's saying, sorry, we just don't have room. It's horrible. So get your animals spayed or neutered. The owner surrenders and the strays. Some of them I think are strays. They had 100 and, God, I don't remember how many cats at one point. 100 and some odd. And then the dogs, they're just packed with dogs. So, it's like, think about it before you get an animal. Don't be buying them off of Facebook. There are tons of them at the shelter that have been fixed, have gone through. They do a great job of getting these animals taken care of and with good attitudes. But if you've got animals, get them spayed or neutered and don't let them run around. One thing that gets me the most is, well, my dog normally comes back. Well, don't let your dog out, and that'll be the first thing. So that's it.
Furballs is when?
Furball is Thursday.
At Alto?
At Alto.
Starting at 6 p.m.
How do you get your tickets?
You can get them online under the Great Catsby, C-A-T-S-B-Y.
Okay. Councilor Hooker?
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to shout out for the solid waste. They're picking up a lot of trees, a lot of refuse, stuff that's been piled in there, even though we don't hear them quite as early in the morning. but I just think they sometimes get overlooked. Great job. Thank you.
Yeah, they do a great job. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and, again, it's been very busy summer. I will agree with the report, the manager's report about the swimming pool. I made it there maybe a third of the time it was open, but it was well-run. There were some technical problems with circulation and stuff, and I was gonna ask Rodney, and I forgot to ask him this morning, but I believe we approved for redoing the slide for this season. Now we're gonna start the pump room, the circulation system. Is that correct? Or we're gonna go into repairing that? Cause I forgot about that, cause I had a few questions on it. And the discrepancy or the problems that the heater broke down and it was warmer at well, it wasn't really warmer at Grindstone, but it seemed like that. It was colder than Grindstone water.
Mayor and councilors, so I do have a report prepared for you. We just had our last day, which was Sunday.
Right.
I will include that in the next manager's report next month, and I'd be ready for a presentation. So we did have a really good year. I'm actually very happy to let you all know we had 0 closures this year due to mechanical problems. We had only 3 closures, full closures due to rain.
Right.
But I mean, as far as the operations of the pool, it worked really well. There's a few minor things that, mechanical things break, but, staff kept up with them and, replaced them and repaired them as needed. But we actually had 0 closures for mechanical issues.
Well, I misunderstood that because I did see the posting for when they would close. I mean, they would open and then the
Right.
lightning would hit and then they would close. But I appreciated this year that sometimes they waited out for the storm to blow through instead of closing. They might close right at noon, but then I saw it in operation around 1:30 or so. And that, I appreciated that. So that was one thing on there. And the other thing Rodney just informed me too is that the vinegar is here
Yes, sir.
for putting out the thistles, spraying on the thistles. And is it still the same process? We go to Parks and Rec and bring our own container and drop a donation?
Yes, sir. So we would like to continue the donation because it is a pretty good funding source and it keeps them really engaged.
Right.
We use that to benefit our Keep Dosa Beautiful program, which is a state program which includes noxious weed removal. So we use that information to track or to aid our grant application with the state. So we include tracking of where the people are, where their residence is, and how many acres they're treating. There's not a limit or restrictions on it, but it is helpful with a grant. So you're correct. Please bring your own. We recommend 1-gallon containers. They're easy to handle. Something with the screw-on lid so you can secure it. But we have like 5,500 gallons of vinegar. Should last us at least 1 year, but we're anticipating it could be, up to 1.5 years, 2 years, depending on how much it's used.
Good.
We do have a supply at the office ready to pick up today.
I didn't know where exactly we were
Yes, sir.
getting that from. So the last thing I have, Mayor, is I am participant of the Lincoln County Mescalero Ministerial Alliance. They're having a What's Up project coming up on September 10th. If you can recall, probably about 15 years ago, that's when the faith community got together to do projects throughout the community. One that the village of Ruidoso participated in was those, if you ever go to Alto Lake and those picnic tables that are right there, well, they were the ones that installed that, or that group that did that. I remember Pastor Jimmy Sportsman coming up here, and it just shocked Corey and Stoddard that says it won't cost the village a penny because there was enough volunteers to install it. They bought the tables and everything like that. I failed in getting the village's participation because I thought about the tree planting at the ball fields. But I don't know where we're at on that. But again, that's coming up on September 10th. It's a Saturday all day. They got various projects to help seniors, repairs on homes. They get the kids to do yard work and all that kind of stuff. So I mention that now because this will happen before our council meeting next month. So if you could spread the word on that, and I apologize, I don't know where we're meeting at. For some reason, I'm thinking it was at the parking lot of Gateway Church on Sutter. So, but with that note, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councilor Letterman?
Thank you. I don't have a lot to say today. I know that's going to surprise you. Okay. But, 66 projects that the Village of Riddlesville has. I just would like to say thank you to everyone, and that's every department. It affects every department, and it's just amazing the progress that we've had completed. One in mind that I was really appreciative of was Center Street. I just think that turned out so nice. It's the gateway from Wingfield Park to Midtown, and I just think that was a great project. And so, thank you to all the employees of the Village of Riddlesville. I think, we've got less than a month for things to start kind of winding down, and I think it's a chance for the employees and the business owners and the citizens of Riddlesville to just kind of take a breath, because all of us have been so busy. Things have gone so well. So sometimes it is nice to take a deep breath and maybe not be so busy. So, but I do appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you. Councilor Eby?
I reiterate what Susan said, that I do appreciate everybody and all the work that they've been doing and in the village. I don't really have a bunch to say, but I do say that this particular project here, the housing project, is really exciting. Going by there and seeing the groundwork being done right now, and that to hear about the ordering of the homes right now, and that it'd be 5 weeks to completion, and then of course your delivery. But the community is really behind this, and the hospital with their donation and all the really positive comments that I've gotten from the residences, and that they really appreciate the village taking the lead on this. I think that when we have the ribbon cutting of the grand opening, I'll invite the news down, because I think they'll come down and cover it, because this is really a monumental, I would say, achievement, because there was a lot of red tape that had to be cut, a lot of, did you say whenever you saw a crack or an avenue that you had to like dash through right then, that was open, the administration and the departments did that to get this into really going, and now it's going to come to fruition very soon. So I think that's really a very exciting thing going on here.
Thank you. And we appreciate the property owner working with us.
Yes.
They did. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you all for making it brief, including Coughlin. We're always surprised by your brevity. Item number 1 on public hearings is hearing about ordinance 2022-04, authorizing the Village of Ruidoso borrower to enter into a loan agreement with Save New Mexico Environmental Department, NMED, for the purpose of obtaining project loan funds in the principal amount of $4,874,556 plus accrued interest, designating the use of the funds for purposes defined in the most current project description form as approved by the NMED, declaring the necessity for the loan, providing that the loan will be payable and collectible solely from the borrower's pledge revenues defined below, prescribing other details concerning the loan and the security for that purpose. And we have with us our very own Eric Boyda and Chris Muirhead. So take it away.
Mayor Crawford, councilors, I apologize for the lengthy
Yeah.
title, but it was what NMAD wanted their title to be. So, but just a quick explanation of this. So the Joint Use Board, which the Village of Ruidoso is a member and also fiscal agent, has done a solar analysis at the wastewater treatment facility, which spends upwards of $500,000 per year on electric costs. So we wanted to look at a large solar installation at the treatment plant, and we found some viable solutions that will, eliminate our approximately $300,000 to $400,000 per year of electrical expenses, and we should get a return on investment for the solar installation within about 10 years. So the JUB has authorized us to move forward and start developing the project, but with the Village of Ruidoso acting as the fiscal agent for the Joint Use Board, we have this ordinance that is being passed by the village, and the Joint Use Board is going to pass a resolution at their next regular meeting saying that they accept this ordinance and the language in it. And that was something that Zach Cook and John Underwood and I met with Chris, NMED, and Joey Jarvis, and we hashed out all the details of what the Ruidoso Downs and Ruidoso was comfortable with. So that's the procedure that we've outlined. And Chris is here to talk about the ordinance itself, if you guys don't have any questions about the solar installation.
Just suffice to say, we've worked on it for many years, and I know Counselor, he's only been gone a short time, and I've already forgot his name. John worked on, that's what's going to happen to any of y'all when you leave. It's going to gloss right over you.
That's okay.
That Cornelius was really instrumental in. We've seen many presentations, different programs, all kinds of everything, but it looks like that this has probably been the best that's come along. So take it away, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So this ordinance, anytime you issue debt, whether it be a bond or a loan agreement with Finance Authority or NMAD, requires under the statutes that the council adopt an ordinance approving the terms of that loan agreement. And this one approves a loan agreement and a promissory note with the New Mexico Environment Department with very favorable terms. The loan amount is $4,874,556. The interest rate is 0.01%, so extraordinarily low, non-existent really. The term of the loan can go up to 30 years. The pledge is the net system revenues of the wastewater system. So you take the gross revenues that it brings in, you pay your operation and maintenance expenses. What is left are known as your net revenues. Those are the revenues that there is a pledge on. The important thing to note is that the village is not making a pledge of any state shared gross receipts tax, local option gross receipts tax, or property taxes, or any other enterprise funds. It is limited to this sole pledge. As Eric mentioned, the village is the primary entity on this as the fiscal agent. There are a series of bonds from 2013 which are outstanding that are on parity with this. And so this has already been working other debt for the village. This will be the primary action that you take to approve it. It will go down toward closing, and this will be the only time that it comes before you as to the loan agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions about it. Again, remarkably good terms for the interest rate, basically free money for 30 years to do the project.
Any questions?
Although the interest rate's about 10 times what you get with it sitting in the bank, so.
That was helpful.
Yeah.
So, I think it's good, and we will then go out for an RFP. What was the gentleman's name that helped us do all the engineering on it?
Mayor Crawford, so we already have Soldermill and Associates. Dale Lyons is already under contract with us to bring this project through construction.
Okay.
So he's doing all the NEPA compliance. We're trying to wrap up negotiations to permanently acquire some adjacent land.
Is that making progress?
Yes, so it's moving, but this is the next major hurdle for us to overcome.
Okay.
So I do, Mayor, if I may, I do have a question on page 2 of the resolution, just for my own understanding, because it kind of boggled me on the amount. There, I believe it's the second whereas on there, revenues have already been pledged. That, like you said, Chris, that it's the fees that are coming in, but I want to make this perfectly clear. It is not increasing property taxes. It's not taken away from gross receipt tax or any of that sort, right?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilor Salas, that's absolutely correct.
Okay.
So the only thing that could happen is if there, for whatever reason, the current rates weren't sufficient to pay debt service, that the NMED could require you to increase the rates to make sure the loan is being paid. But there is no impact on your gross receipts taxes or your property taxes, and you are not committing to use any of those for this project.
Yes, and I just want to make that clear for the record on there. And then on the second box, or the middle box, the principal amount, the outstanding as of 6/30/2022, using the most current fiscal year end to date, 5.3 million or $5,353,000. So is that, how do we get that number?
That ties, Mayor, Councilor, that ties to the Series 2013 revenue bonds that are outstanding.
Okay.
And I don't have those in front of me, but they have an amortization for.
Here comes Judy.
probably
Judy,
25
Judy,
years.
Judy.
And so after 9 years of debt service payments, that amount has come down to, now the par amount outstanding is $5,355,000.
Okay.
So, Counselor, Mayor, as you recall, a couple years ago, we had agreed to some of our cash balance in the treatment plant, and we had set it aside in a debt reserve fund. So technically, even though I can't pay the loan, the bonds off until July 1st of 2023.
Right.
They're still on our books. However, the monies that are gonna pay those off are already in our hands in the bank account.
Okay.
Remember, we did that earlier in the year.
That's good. So now just projecting, 5 years from now, we add another 200 homes on the sewer system coming in with the rates in there. We would be able to refund this account to make sure that we keep the payment
Yeah, so
steady,
Mayor.
or the customer paying steady.
Yes, Mayor, Councilor Salas. So the 2013 bonds were publicly marketed, and they routinely, bond investors in the capital markets want to see a 10-year period where they know you're not going to redeem their bonds early.
Right.
So that is what's currently preventing the village from just paying those off. The NMED does not have that requirement. They'll take the money back at any point to prepay, to pay down a portion of it, or in whole. So that's another favorable term under the NMED program, is that if you want to prepay it, you can do that at any time.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay,
Mayor, I just wanted to make a point that, we're pledging the revenues from the wastewater, but we're also going to be receiving a reduction in utilities. So our operational cost is shifting on this as well. So, and I can't remember that, Eric, but I think it was like 20 years or 16-year payoff for return on the investment.
So, we have to wait until we finalize where exactly the panels are going, but our return on investment should happen in approximately 10 years.
Yep.
So we probably won't structure the loan to be paid back in 10 years because we want to give ourselves some buffer, but,
Right.
The premise is that, we're going to save $300,000 on our electric bill, and then we're just putting that savings to pay off the loan. And we're designing the project so that we know that we're comfortable, we're going to get a return on investment on
Right.
this.
And I just want to make that clear because we're not increasing operational cost.
And at 0.01%, from a policy standpoint, you can decide whether you want to prepay it early or just let it run for 30 years because it's not costing you anything.
right.
That's good.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so now that this portion, we'll open it up to the public. And if there's anybody here that would like to ask questions, speak on this, or anybody on YouTube, raise your hand, and we'll be recognized by our clerk. So anybody, Rodney, are you coming up to speak? Okay.
Yeah, don't wave at the auction, remember that.
Anyone? Okay, Ron, do you see anybody on internet land?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, no one with any public comment. Also, the clerk's office did not receive any public comment regarding ordinance 2022-04.
So Ron's smart, he can remember there, or either they just want to keep my mouth shut from asking that question, but thank you, Ron.
Yeah. Okay, so no questions. We'll close the public portion of this ordinance, item number 1 on public hearings, and I would entertain a motion.
It's a long one, I'll give it a shot. Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 2022-04, authorizing the Village of Rio Dosa borrower to enter into a loan agreement with the State of New Mexico Environment Department, MNED, for the purpose of obtaining project loan funds in the principal amount of $4,874,556 plus accrued interest, designating the use of the funds for the purpose defined in the most current project description form as approved by NMED, declaring the necessity for the loan, providing that the loan will be payable and collectible solely from the borrower's pledge revenues defined below, prescribing other details concerning the loan and the security for that purpose.
Second.
Final discussion? Roll call, Ron.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, and if you thought money was cheap a while ago, it's another big old handful. Item number 2, ordinance 2022-05, authorizing the Village of Rio Dosa to enter into a contract services and loan agreement and related promissory note with the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority, NMFA, for the purpose of obtaining project loan funds in the amount of $400,000, no cents, at an interest rate of 0.00%. Mr. Muirhead.
Yes, Mayor, thank you, members of the council. So this is a unique project in terms of normally wouldn't see that the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority is loaning the village $400,000 at 0% to acquire 4 modular homes for housing related to, the emergency conditions in the village. The need for the ordinance is if you didn't do an ordinance, anytime you're borrowing money, even if it's something unique like this at 0%, it can be determined to be a general obligation and you have an election. So it's important to identify a special fund. The other one, it was the net revenues of the wastewater system. In this one, it's very unique, as in the cash flow from the 4 modular homes that are being built. So they define that very similar to the net revenues of the other ones. Cash flow defined as the revenues coming in from the rental payments less the operation and management costs of the village or the entity that's managing it. And that delta, or what's left, is what is paid back to the Mortgage Finance Authority. Under the promissory note, it is not due in full until 2047. And so it's just a payment as that comes in, but you have an ample window to pay that back. Again, no pledge of any other revenues from the village. And it does approve the form of the promissory note and then what the Mortgage Finance Authority has called a contract services and a loan agreement, which does tie to the 4 modular homes. Happy to answer any questions. I don't know if there's Tim or Judy about the project itself, but straightforward.
Mayor, Council, one of the most important provisions in here that when we look at it, it actually recognizes the disparity between low to moderate income and actual rent values, and recognizes that the village is authorized to work up to 140% LMI. I think that's, to me, one of the most important aspects of this agreement, is that acknowledgement.
I agree with that.
There's only one other that's allowed, isn't it, in Taos that allows that kind of differential?
Mayor, Councilor, Taos is the other community that's being talked about that has that same disparity.
My question was just simply is it common for them to give out 0%?
Mayor, Councilor Eby, this is the first time I've seen one of these in 30 years. I think it's just reflective of the times, the unique circumstances the village is facing with the emergency, and the Mortgage Finance Authority serving its purpose of providing housing. They obviously do a lot of low-income housing type of things for their other programs, but this is the first time I've seen this particular type of loan.
Well, we have to be sure to thank them.
Manager, we're exactly, I know they've told us and whatever, but do we have it in writing where they've recognized the 140%?
Mayor, yes, in the grant agreement that we've received, it recognizes the 140% LMI.
Okay.
Grant or loan?
Grant loan. they
Well, we're
called
hoping
it
it's a
but
groan, but right now it's a loan.
This is all saying loan. When you look at the terms and conditions of the agreement, the Finance Authority reserves the right to forgive that.
Okay.
Another amazing opportunity.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion.
Yes, did you open it up?
Oh, yeah.
Nope, I haven't opened up, getting ready to. So at this time, I'll open it up to the public. If there's anybody out here who would like to comment on this, ask any questions here or on the intranet. Clerk, do we have anyone?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I don't see anyone on Zoom that's wanting to provide public comment.
Hey, and you didn't have anybody send you anything?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, clerk's office also did not receive any public comment regarding ordinance 2022-05.
Thank you very much. Okay, then we'll close the public portion of this, and I'll look for a motion, please.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-05, authorizing the village of Dosa to enter into a contract services and loan agreement and related promissory note with New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority for the purpose of obtaining project loan funds in the principal amount of $400,000 at an interest rate of 0.00%.
Second.
Any final discussion? Roll call, Ron.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Chris.
Chris, do you need the mayor to sign anything
Not
right
today.
now?
Not
Okay.
today, yeah. So, but soon we'll be able to put everything to bed.
All right, awesome.
Thank you all.
Have a safe trip.
Thank you.
Mayor, I make a statement. The New Mexico, the resolution for the Resolutions Committee for the New Mexico Municipal League has also accepted and ranked our resolution high in relation to, giving municipalities throughout the state of New Mexico to work up to 140% LMI. So as we go to the annual conference, that's something that I think we need to continue to lobby for, is that resolution be moved high. I think we recognize here, but throughout the state of New Mexico, municipalities don't have the authority to work above that. And, even at the municipal league, they're talking about how many years has it been that other municipalities have been working on the housing issue. When Ron and I and Chris were at the conference last week, that was another topic, another discussion around that. And right now, municipalities don't have the tools to, effectively get involved with housing. So, that's what this is really focused on, is really creating our ability. Some people in the community are talking about us getting into competition. There's been some negative comments that have came in on the survey. It's not that we're in competition. The people that are, have the higher rent homes and providing long-term or even short-term rentals, they're not providing for the section that we're talking about, where there is disparity in the community. And that's where municipalities should get involved, is when the private is not providing for individuals.
Agreed.
Very good.
All right, I think you will move on to regular items. Item number 1, discussion and possible action on naming of 1114 Meacham property development and designating street names. This was postponed from the July 12th, 2022 regular council meeting. Yes, ma'am, Sam?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Since we last saw each other during the July council meeting, we put out a flash vote last Wednesday seeking input from the public on names for the development at 1114 Meacham Drive. I believe the clerk shared with you the results of the survey. I hope it's helpful, but we are seeking a name today so that we can move forward with a sign for the development and have it all in place prior to residents moving in.
Okay, and so the flash vote, there were 347 initially invited. We had a 53% response. Did anybody in here get that? Okay, we got 3. 4, I got it.
My wife got it too.
Did she?
Yeah.
5, well,
She didn't listen to how I told her to vote, but.
nothing new. All right, so we have a list of names here that has been given to the council of people that have put in, but some of the things that were interesting is this was from, I guess, locals. 49.3% of those surveyed said that they felt like how inexpensive or expensive do you think housing is in Ruidoso? And very expensive was checked 49.3% of the time. And so that's for folks that live here. And then how much do you agree or disagree with the following statement? The range of housing costs in Ruidoso should match the range of people's incomes. And so strongly disagree was 8.7%, and somewhat agree was 27.5%, and strongly agree, again, was at 40.3%. So that was kind of interesting. And in 8 weeks, the village of Ruidoso's first workforce housing development at 1114 Meacham will be opening. People affected by the McBride fire will have first priority, and then those with low to moderate income. What do you think would be a good name for the new development? We had 66 responses. One of them was Dodge City.
LOL.
And then some of the people that aren't very serious that we have to deal with on a daily basis. The Ruidoso slum. Thank you for your input, Knucklehead. We got some things like that, but we did have some really excellent ones.
I think so too.
Crawford Manor.
Yeah, that wasn't me. Wild Horse Way was one that I found interesting. Bull Elk Run, Mustang Court, Mountain Crest. So there was quite a few in here. And so after looking at these, lady and gentlemen, would anybody like to put something up?
I would.
Okay.
I think that this should be something that feels good when it comes out of your mouth. And I think Meacham Meadows feels good. It's where it is on Meacham. And, we could, like Mustang Court or some of those, or Bull Elk Run, we could use those for roads. But I just think Meacham Meadows sounds very inviting.
Was your suggested name listed in here?
Mine was Bull Elk Run.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
But like Susan said.
Got you down.
But no, that's fine. But like Susan said, is Mustang Court sounds like the name of a street, not a development.
Yeah.
And Bull Elk Run, okay, I can kind of see that too. But your suggestion is more something for a area.
yeah, I had Elk Meadows Park, and it didn't even make the list.
No.
So I see that wouldn't even made it any further. So we have Meacham, it actually says Meacham Meadows, but
I know, but
we know what they meant.
Yeah.
And, to me, that's as good as any.
Well, I've been in agreement with Councilor Ludman there, because I really think that if we not only for identification purposes, but for also people to know exactly where it is. Meacham should be in the name of the property or that area, and Meadows sounds great to me. Meacham Meadows.
Okay, anybody else?
I agree. I think New Beginnings makes me sound more like it was a rehab clinic, so. Just a personal opinion and observation.
And this helpful, and I agree with you 100%, but this helpful individual, the name is unimportant. Housing for locals has been unaffordable for years. Cost of rentals and sales have gone off the cliff. It's now a crisis, and we've been working on this for some time, but thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Helpful.
Well, and I'll tell you, like, when it came time to name my daughter, we went through all the possible negative spins on a name. And Bull Elk Run, I can see something potentially, bull with the bull in there. So yeah, I would withdraw that.
Well, there's an Elk Run up there on Airport Road.
Is there?
Right there on the corner, Elk Run.
Okay. So if we just get a motion.
Do we have to come up with street names too?
No, we're doing mailbox ABC, aren't we?
Well, but it says property development and designating street names.
Under the rec.
Samantha?
How many streets do we have?
So based on, if we're gonna consider one to be like a loop, I think there's 4 names that we would need. Did we wanna go ahead and tackle
I thought we had
now?
decided that it was just going to be.
We weren't gonna do that.
We weren't going to do that. We've already been down this road, yeah.
That's what I remember.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought we were
my
going to use the
understanding.
114 Meacham and then one
A, B, or whatever.
But we had talked about the potential of putting in street names just for sense of community, not being an official street.
Confusing.
Well, the name of the development or that she's suggesting could be the street name.
Well, but you've got 4 different streets.
I thought it was since
possibly
we had
5.
18 houses, you were going to have,
Yeah, that was going to be the official address. for those.
1114 Meacham Drive number.
We'll just make sure we have wayfinding at the intersections,
Yeah.
You already got the name, so don't push the streets.
I was thinking Letterman Loop.
Letterman
I
Loop.
recall we're either gonna letter them or number them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we went through this whole discussion in another meeting at another time.
Maybe A through whatever, the number 18 or.
Right.
through
Right. Yeah, I remember that, but I remember that down at the very bottom there, it's kind of like a dead-end little street with access for one parking spot in lot 11, because I remember coming up with the name, something to do with Crawford, because it goes nowhere. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, wait till we get to the Coughlin Crappers that we're going to put in. Off of,
I was gonna spin it a little different way than Coughlin Court, but I.
Yeah, when we start getting to the lift stations, right?
yeah. Yeah, yours won't be the lift station. Yeah, remember when we had that problem?
I'd like to make a motion.
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move, it's my honor to move that we name our new 1114 Meacham property, Meacham Meadows.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second, any final wording, discussion? Ron?
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
That went a lot faster.
That
than I
went
thought
great.
it would.
Yep, because my excellent leadership skills.
There you
Went through
go.
that. Discussion on presentation
Thank you,
of
Councilor.
FEMA Phase 3 hazard mitigation.
Now it's too cold in here.
Ah, hush. I'm going to lump you over here with Letterman.
Oh, we have several cold people out there.
Y'all are kind of in the way of the vents. There's certain places out there you don't want
This
to
one
sit.
blows right down here.
Okay, yes, go ladies.
At the last workshop meeting, we were asked to give a little more detailed presentation on Phase 3 of the hazard mitigation project, specifically
the communication plan and areas of responsibility. So Phoebe's been kind enough to come up with a PowerPoint presentation so that you could get that additional information. Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for, hopefully it comes up here. Unplug it? Okay.
And your microphone's off. There you go.
Oh,
There you go.
all right. Want me to start? Yes, sir. Thank you again, Mayor, Council, and thank you for some time. I know you're very busy, you've got a full agenda. So we're just gonna really focus on phase 3, but just for informational purposes, so we have a record that we wanted to also update the council on the overall progress. So I'm gonna go through quickly phase 1 and phase 2, but our main objective is give you an update on phase 3, along with the items that came up in the workshop and some additional discussion. So just to recap, phase 1 is the restoration of the existing sewer lines and manholes. This has been completed, so this is a big milestone for the project, and that was a large portion, spanned the entire 12 miles from the Mescalero boundary all the way down to the wastewater treatment plant. There was 2 realignment sites, Fern Trail and the Morales property downstream of Country Club Bridge. And so we've been on site to verify if there's any damages in the recent rain events, because the contract is going through final completion and reconciliation. Substantial completion has been approved by the engineer. So we're just, with these rain events, we're just making sure nothing else comes out. So we've been working with capital projects, and Christelle is coming up to speed very quickly, as well as the other project managers within the capital projects group that were introduced earlier today. So just wanted to quickly note that. And so as we move forward on phase 2, that's the lift stations and force mains. That Smithco is a contractor on that one, or is a contractor, I should say. There's 2 lift stations, one at the Circle lift station, we call it the Circle. It's right there on Mr. Stinson's property, just north of the roundabout before going into Upper Canyon. The other one is along Sleepy Hollow Bridge. And so both wet wells and components have been installed by Smithco. We are waiting for some changes to electrical cabinets and also electrical components at both locations. So there's some final power installation by both P&M and the contractor, which is Smithco, and also some adjustments on Circle Lift Station for the electrical closet that's still ongoing. And so the great thing though is there's been a lot of progress on those projects, and as we finalize those final electrical components and design, that project should also go to completion as well. So that really takes us into phase 3, which is what the mayor and the council wanted to get updated on today. And so if it's okay to continue? Yes. Okay. Great, so I'd like to report that the contract has been signed and notice to proceed has been executed. The contractor is AUI Incorporated out of Albuquerque. And so since the notice to proceed has been executed, AUI has begun actually yesterday with initial non-ground disturbing work, such as tree evaluation and removal, surveys for easement boundaries, water soil testing, to prepare the SWIP, which is a stormwater pollution prevention plan.
TCEs?
Oh, temporary construction easements.
Okay, that's right. Thank you.
I apologize for that acronym in there. Verifying utilities, video documentation, locating additional staging areas that might be outside the project boundary, but there's going to be a great deal of rock and materials associated with the project. So those are also AUIs coming into the village of Rio Dosa to try to look how to make sure and ensure efficiencies in the implementation of the project. They haven't installed temporary fencing yet, but I just wanted to put up there that that's also one of the items of non-ground disturbance. It's that mesh fencing to denote the boundaries, especially of the temporary construction easements. It will give clarity to the contractor and their staff and their workers as to what their boundaries are, plus it'll give clarity to the property owners that aligns with the easements that have been defined that they have agreed to. So, and it will also be a safety component for, hopefully young ones or our general public not to cross those boundaries into a construction area. So heavy construction and river work is scheduled to begin October 2022. So just here, it's going to come really quickly. Even yesterday, being out in the field, there's a lot that AUI is trying to soak in from the maps, the information, the bid documents, the quantities, and all the logistics. So we were actually out there yesterday with AUI, knocking on doors,
Talking to people?
talking to people, handing out the public service announcement to everybody so that everybody's aware when crews come in. There's a lot of work, as with 66 projects going on throughout the village of Rio Dosa. There's a lot of work going on. There's a lot of staking out there, who's doing what. So we're going to try to do our best to make sure those property owners around the first priority sites, which we refer to as location 5B, 5C, and location 8A. And to translate that, 8A is immediately upstream of Main Road 2 bridge. 5C and 5B are just between, I would say, just downstream of Bradford Drive, the bridge there. So just downstream of that, where it kind of narrows, there's a lot of rock walls there. There's a walking bridge that crosses there by the Schumacher residence on that side of the river, from one side to the other. So that's the 5B, 5C stretch.
Does everybody know where that's at?
Yeah.
Up by the old water plant?
Yep.
That was towards that end. Question?
Yes, Mayor.
What you've got up here is pretty good with bullet points and your parts of critical path. You're sharing this information with the homeowners?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we went over the staff, and we actually just submitted a report just earlier today to summarize what information we provided to those that we spoke with. And so it's all delineated in that report that we sent to Ron and Christella and Adam and Eric, and as well as Moles and Corbin and AUI, copying the whole team on it to make sure everybody knows what's been said and to also disseminate some of this information that I just shared.
And then we're having on Thursdays on the project managers project meeting.
Yes, sir.
Project, whatever it's called. Update. They're going to be included this Thursday and have their own time slot.
Yes, sir.
And how are we working with the subs to AUI?
Thank you. So, great question.
Is this in your, I should just listen to you.
No. Mayor, I'm glad you're jumping ahead. So I just wanted to jump ahead to answer your questions is, yes, there will be coordination meetings on the bi-weekly Thursday morning updates. So we have those capital project meetings at 7 a.m. I know all of us wake up early, get our coffee to participate on those. After those bi-weekly updates for capital projects, AUI will have a time slot after those meetings at 9 a.m. to then make sure that everybody, the public, mayor and the council, as well as the staff, can get up to date on the latest on a bi-weekly basis. So I think that's what you're referring to.
And then our PIO will be putting out information on social media, and then the contractors will have a daily 7 a.m. tailgate meeting.
Absolutely. So thank you, Mayor, for taking us to the next slide. So we wanted to make a lot of visuals so that we're...
Hold on a second.
Yes.
I think those are weekly meetings, all right?
Yeah, those are weekly. Oh, weekly, not daily.
Correct. correct.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Weekly tailgate briefings, as shown on here. Excuse me, and after this meeting, Christella and I were talking about, we like to share this, of course, with the council and the public as well. So this will be posted on the website, the Rio Dosa Sewer Project.com website, as well as provided to the council. So I will make sure that the clerk will get this information and you all will have these graphics and visuals as well. We try to make sure they're visual so we all understand what places, what roles we all have. And I think the village manager had mentioned this in the workshop meeting, is there's so many things, moving parts, and different project managers for each different items associated with this project and roles and responsibilities. So for example, high water mark, we're mostly responsible for grant compliance and environmental compliance. And as you see on here, we have Moles and Corbin, who is actually the engineer. And based on that EJCDC document and contract.
Mayor Phoebe, can you just step back a minute and start at the beginning of the flow chart and then go through it?
Thank you, village manager and mayor and council. I apologize for jumping right in. I got excited to answer your questions, Mayor. So let me just go ahead. So AUI is the contractor. They're right, I don't know if you can see, they're at the top of the slide here. They are the ones out there doing the work, construction, heavy equipment. Then Moles and Corbin is the engineer. Any communication to Moles and Corbin, as shown on here, will go to the whole team. So we're in the loop. We're in the loop. But Moles and Corbin, as the engineer, is the owner, the Village of Rio Dosa's representative, contractually. So any direction that is given to AUI comes from Molson as the owner's representative.
Okay.
So, but we want to all stay in the loop, so we all know what the left hand and the right hand are doing. And then Molson's contract is directly with the Village of Rio Dosa to capital projects. And right now, Adam Sanchez, I believe, and Eric Boyda are going to be the project managers, also working with Christella with the capital projects department, excuse me. So VOR project manager will be the interface between Molson and Molson's contract is with the Village of Rio Dosa. So then the project manager will look at all of these other roles and issues, including the public information officer. So all of those public notifications will then filter, and the project manager will ensure that those are going along as needed. Because the agency, which is one of the PIOs, both have a contract with the Village of Rio Dosa and with Molson to do that public information outreach and coordination on the websites. So the agency is also contracted to maintain the Rio Dosa Sewer Project.com website, which is under Molson's contract. I know, sorry to get into the details. So, so all of those will be going through that PIO that the village is very accustomed to working with over these last few months and years. I don't know if I want to stop there if there's any questions on the complexity there and how information will go out to the public.
I think we're good.
Okay, and that also helps us streamline as we shared earlier, what is being said to the public and being disseminated so we're all on the same page. Often we get different things being said and we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So this will help ensure that as well. So as an example, yesterday we had a public service announcement. It went through these channels. So we all had the same piece of paper. We all had the same points that we were talking about so that there's no confusion among all of the stakeholders and all of the contractors, including the Village of Rio Dosa.
Contractors. So the guy on the backhoe or the truck, they're clued in also.
Absolutely. And so they will be doing a weekly tailgate.
Who's invited to the tailgate?
So right now, everybody on the team, so the Village of Rio Dosa, High Watermark, Moles and Corbin, the contractor themselves, the subcontractors, there's a great deal of subcontractors on this effort too. So AUI is not gonna be the only contractor on site. So everybody involved will be at the tailgate. We'll cover safety, of course, as many.
Mayor, hold on a second, Phoebe.
Yes.
The tailgate parties are gonna have a set format. And there's certain information that will be provided. The information will be provided by the PIO officer that's hired by the construction company. They'll be running the tailgates. If people want to address the construction company, we've asked that their employees do not engage the public.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting to.
The PIO officer is the point of contact on the ground for the construction company, that anybody from the public wants to talk, they're gonna go back to them, and that's who they'll have a conversation with.
Well, and that's what I want to get to, because
Yes.
I'm already receiving phone calls that people have left their homes, gone over to the cruise, and getting information. And so I want them, after being repeatedly warned as a counselor and a mayor, I finally have learned to go to the PIO, and then we get our message so that we all understand what we're doing, and then we go out with that message. And that's what I'm looking for, is a disgruntled guy that's out there working for one of these contractors, I don't know, but that they're responsible, they're all gonna report to AUI, right?
Yes, sir.
And that their people are, they're doing their job, and that they have a card that goes to whoever the homeowner needs to talk to, so that we have that unified message, that there's not a misunderstanding here or there. Who's taking video?
Thank you, Mayor, for that question, and council. The video is subcontracted to AUI. I mean, AUI is the prime, so their subcontractor will be the ones taking video.
Who is checking the video?
So right now, the project manager will be also responsible for checking the videos, as well as we'll be taking video for compliance as well, which will then help ensure that we have multiple eyes on this.
And then,
But
because that's we're gonna live or die by, so want to make sure, so you're saying that Adam and Boyda, Mr. Boyda, are you familiar with how we're gonna check video, where we're gonna store video?
Mayor Crawford, I just want to reiterate my role a little bit. It's meant to be a backup for Adam in his absence, so Adam's going to be the lead project manager.
Well, as a backup individual, you should know the playbook, like if you're the second quarterback or third, like I always was, bench riders have to know the plays too. I just want to make sure that we know that we're supposed to video, and then that the video camera's working, that we got the points of interest, and that it's stored properly.
So as on my projects, as project manager, I always review the videos when they're submitted from the contractor.
Okay.
So, the village, in my opinion, would be the ones that would be reviewing the video, and then I always put it right into the project record.
Okay, we just want to make sure Adam understands that we have that system, because I don't want to fall down on that one, that when we're accessing these properties, that we
Mayor,
take a video.
just getting back real quick, each one of those positions has a role that they're playing, just like, for instance, when we talk about, the property ownership, the lease agreements is actually, we're purchasing those easements. So those are going to be housed with Ron. That's Ron's only role in this. He's not to engage in contract management.
No, and I'm not asking, and I fully understand that, but that's why we're having this discussion.
Well, I
Because
think
we've ran into walls numerous times on this project, that it's this, well, I'm responsible for that, it was before my time. I do not want to hear another one of those. That's why I want to make sure the video is where that they can't come back, and there's not a crack. If there was a crack, we see it. If there's a tree, we have an arborist that's going to adjust, that will engage with that all these points are covered.
Yeah, Mayor, I was just stepping back because they kind of went straight into talking about the PIO, and, that some of that isn't correct. Like Ron isn't going to be at those project meetings unless there's a question that comes up for property management, then it'd go back to Ron. if there was an environmental issue, then it would go to Phoebe. So, my expectation is we're not gonna have 50 staff members out there on a tailgate party. All the information's gonna be, filtered to that PIO officer and then disseminated from there if there's questions.
Will we get that that whatever the meeting's gonna be about, the strategic plan or tactical plan for the week? I would imagine that's what it's gonna be covering, points of access, different things that they're gonna be doing. And so they would
Yes.
be looking at those timelines, and that these other things have already been addressed by the time you're out there getting ready to do the work. And so,
That's correct.
and so that's what I want to do, is make sure that we have somebody that's videoed it before we start, that we have a point of contact, that the people on the equipment or with the shovels or whatever know what they're supposed to do. They hand the card off to call this information or the phone number. Because that's what they're already doing. They're already calling me and saying the information I've sent them, Mr. Poole, these people, and I'm getting my information from you guys, and I just forward them to them. This is what's we're working with today. Does not match up with what the guy that got out of the truck and told him.
Mayor, and so each one of the contracts, when you start to break it up, like Phoebe's role is environmental and grant management. So when you start to look at her contract, there's certain records that she keeps in her office that are owned by the village, and then a copy provided to our project management department. So, there's procedures and contracts in place. Same thing with Jerry. He's our engineer of record, so there's certain documents that are housed with him and then forwarded to our capital projects, and then they keep a backup. So there's redundancy in all those systems built in.
Okay.
All the submittals do come to the capital projects or to the project manager. In our case, our representative would be Adam, and then, he would review, and then they would be stored in the appropriate place.
Okay.
Thank you for that, village manager and mayor and council. As we walk through this, even this, what we tried to make a very straightforward graphics still is very complex. So to your point, Mayor, is we're gonna be talking daily already, even though we have no ground disturbance yet. So we've already seen some of those complexities, getting PIOs up to speed. AUI has a public information officer, and having them talk with the agency to make sure that consistent messaging is out there. The other thing is what we talked about with Catherine in preparation for yesterday, which was the start of some of the survey work, was actually having a point of contact list. So if somebody is out there, the workers know, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be answering the question. Here's the latest public announcement, what I got. And so we actually printed about 30 copies yesterday so that the surveyors had them. And we said, if anybody comes up to you, give them the public service announcement, because that has been vetted by the PIOs from the village of Rio Dosa, as well as AUI's PIO and Moles and Corbin's PIO. So that's the consistency that we're gonna try to instill, not gonna try, that we are going to instill.
Yes.
On this, especially with AUI. So Catherine Jordan is now coming up to speed. She's the project manager for AUI. She's been a little bit overwhelmed at this first part, but we've walked her through it. We actually went out there with Alex, who is the on-the-ground crew supervisor yesterday, and basically walking them through those locations I mentioned earlier, 5B, 5C, 8A, and basically taking the drawings out, showing the property owners' homes, and saying, this rock, just like it shows on the drawings, it's got to come out, but put back in place. I mean, we've gone down to the details based upon walls, rocks, trees, you name it. So that process of sharing that information and knowledge is ongoing right now as we speak.
Thank you.
And if I may, Mayor and Council, just to go back one slide to talk about the calendar and schedule. So as it's shown here, we're starting the disturbing work today, or yesterday. We're gonna have the ground disturbing work start October, which is the gray up there, the second line, all the way to the end, toward the end of August 2023. So I want to note some major milestones is the substantial completion, 480 days, which calculates to November 24, 2023. Final completion is 525 days, and that's January 8, 2024. And so just to show you also on this, we tried to make it very simplified so that we all can visualize this. There's going to be two crews going out. So we have the blue crew on this slide and then the purple crew. So crew 1 and crew 2. So we will be doing sites simultaneously. Right now, AUI has provided a schedule to Molson that got disseminated to the whole team, that they will be starting at location 8A, and then crew 1 will be at one location, crew 2 will be at another, and the other location will be 5C, 5B area. So they will continue to work through those all the way till the end of August 2023. There's a lot of work, a lot of ground disturbance, just to prep us based upon what we've seen on the drawings and looking at what happened, the work being done for lift stations at Circle and at Sleepy Hollow. These are going to be very eye-catching for the residents, if I can say that diplomatic. Trees needing to be cut down. So I'm just making sure that we're all prepped for what's going to happen in Upper Canyon and be transparent about it. And so as we continue to go forward, we have identified, based on the discussions with the property owners, the difference between a tree removal and then an evaluate tree. On those evaluate trees, once the contractor says they will need to take that for safety reasons, excavation, like if they hit the roots of the tree to the point where it becomes a tree that needs to come down, we will reach back out to the property owners prior to any cutting down. And that's key because we learned that lesson on phase 1 and 2.
And we'll have some trees for them to pick from that match with the indigenous nature of what you're doing?
Yes, sir. So right now in the contract documents, Mayor and Council, is that the tree will be same species type, and it's already spec'd out that it must be replaced with that native species type.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, Phoebe, before you go off that slide.
Yes, sir.
That QR code you have there takes you to a website that has not been updated since January.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor, Council, thank you for that. Moles and Corbin is now updating that, so they're in the process of updating that. And that is that RioDosaSewerProject.com website. Yes, so the agency, as of a meeting last week that we had here at the village, they are in the process of updating that with the latest schedule. We just got this schedule hot off the press yesterday.
Okay.
So I apologize for that, but we want to make sure that, that everybody gets that website out there. If they're interested, that website will continuously be updated weekly based upon the updates we get from, or that Molson, I should say, gets from AUI.
Okay, I would just caution you about, I don't know how far this is going, but if I go to something that's not been updated, I don't go back. So it says that we're currently under easement acquisition, which is going through March, and then the last activity was January of this year. So just be careful with giving that out until we actually get it updated.
Mayor, Council, Councilor,
water?
thank you for that
Please.
comment, and I'll pass that on to Molson as well, and the PIOs, and those that are managing that. Thank you so much. So one other thing to note on this is, as you see here in the graphic, location 8A, 5B will be started first. Then they will go to location 3, then 5C, simultaneously working those 2 locations. Then down into Midtown, location 18A, which is just by Fern Trail and Leach, just right across each other there. And then location 9, which is right there, just immediately downstream of Main Road 2 Bridge. And then location 16A, which is immediately downstream, being the last location for crew number 2, being immediately downstream of Meacham Drive, right behind the Allsops there. So that's the schedule that AUI has provided us as of yesterday. Now, I'll stop here for a moment and see if anybody has, mayor or council, if you have any questions.
I'm good.
So with that, just really as village manager mentioned, working with Ron to make sure all the easements are filed, and Ron has picked up very quickly. We've had to go through all the mailings and see where exactly what the village has received. So he's in the process, he's already gotten everything out, anything that needed to have been followed up with just in the last week. He jumped on it and that has been out the door. So just again to reiterate that we've got 3 types of easement: temporary, permanent, and access easements. And so those have already all been sent out to the property owners for final signatures, and if there was anything else left. And then just a really quick summary of our interagency coordination, just remembering that we've got a lot of regulatory eyes on this project. We're working with the Army Corps of Engineers, the New Mexico Environment Department, the FEMA Environmental and Historic Preservation folks, all on the permitting, the environmental compliance, and grant compliance. I do want to also note, actually, as of late last night, we got the official written time extensions, not only for project worksheet 155, which is the Rio Dosa sewer line project, but also the bridge project. So everything for disaster declared funding 1783 has all been extended another year. So that was a major milestone yesterday. So that's where we actually got a final confirmation from FEMA this morning. So again, trying to update this on the noise abatement plan amendment for the finding of no significant impact documentation. So that's also been a check mark that we've been able to secure in the last 48 hours. And so that's where we are today. And I stand for any questions.
Okay. Anyone? Anything else?
No, thanks for the update.
Okay.
You had to use a thistle.
Thistle.
That's the one with the vinegar, right?
Yeah.
I was laughing earlier when I heard that, so I was like, oh, they're gonna comment on that thistle plant. Thank you, Mayor. And
Thank you.
Councilors, and thank you, Village Manager and Cristela for your support. And I apologize, do you have anything to
I just wanted to reiterate that Phoebe and I and Molzen are trying to work together to make sure we don't have any of the same mistakes that we've run into in the past. It's a plan, but it's gonna have to have moving parts, or we might have to modify things if it's not working well, so.
Sure, and I'm all for that, but what we've seen in the past, we start good, and then they change personnel, and that guy's not there, and the new guy's not brought up to speed, and then things get dropped in the crack, and then, as always, the village holds the bag. And so we honestly want to make sure people are informed that we do exactly what we said we're going to do. And I like the idea of, before it's cut down, and that we have an arborist, and that they talk to the people about their tree. Because they call me, I don't know. You know, and I'm not a specialist in it. So, all right, well, I appreciate it.
Communication. Biggest thing. Make sure the PIOs and all that are involved also. As best, they're gonna be the mouthpiece.
Okay, thank you, folks, I appreciate it. I have no idea what I did on my computer, but it went right the opposite. I don't know how to,
what you've done over there.
I don't know yet, I'm trying to fix it.
Gone to the
But
dark
they do
side.
say that's a better bond or way.
You
to
can
look
see
at
it, I don't know what happened, but.
That's old school.
Writing on the chalkboard.
Item number 3, discussion and possible action on agreement with New Mexico Department of Transportation for supply of salt in exchange for snow and ice removal on New Mexico Highway 48 from Ski Run Road to US 70.
Mayor, I move to approve the agreement with New Mexico Department of Transportation for supply of salt in exchange for snow and ice removal on the New Mexico Highway 48 from Ski Run Road to US Highway 70.
Second.
I
Okay,
don't know why this wasn't put on consent. I mean.
I didn't even know it was on here. until just-
I didn't either.
It's a
Mayor
stand-
Crawford, Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we received this one after the workshop is why I put it on the regular
okay,
item. So
okay. And just for the public, it's for 1,000 tons of salt, and the value of that is $58,500, so.
I have a quick question on that. I know we've heard in the past, salt is
Yep.
not salt. There's different types of salt when we have the extremely low temperatures. Is this just regular old salt, and then we have to purchase the low temperature salt if we need it?
I would say for that price, it's regular old
Mayor
salt.
Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, last year, we were able to receive some of the low-temperature salt. We make the order with the Department of Transportation, and they transport it, and we did have the salt that was more effective in the lower temperatures. So it just depends on what loads we get.
But
we
this
did
is
receive-
regular.
This is regular salt, but we did receive the low-temperature salt also.
Did we have to pay the difference for the?
No, they just, it's part of the agreement.
And Mayor Council, they may provide us or supply us with a low temperature as well, it just depends on the availability.
Right, okay.
Who was the second on that, Mayor?
It was,
One
yeah.
of these,
I would be.
Okay,
okay.
okay.
Mayor
Final
and
discussion, I guess we have.
Councilor Eby and myself actually met the guy that's delivering the salt last week at JB's Brewery in Albuquerque, so. He just happens to be dating my niece.
Oh,
We kind of ran into him there, huh, Councilor?
Yes, we did.
really? Roll call, Ron?
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby. Thank you.
And Mayor, I did run into Chief Kowalski, and he did say Gavilan's open, and I was looking for some more cake, and it's all eaten up. so.
Ron Gun.
And then there was,
Mayor, Adam and Josh, you know, they're out there, that's why they're not here, but
Right.
we're receiving kudos on some of the work that they've done in the Upper Canyon and Gavilan Road, so.
Awesome.
there was also a house fire, lightning struck a house and
Oh,
caught
wow.
on fire.
Wow.
Paradise Open too?
They're having a hard time with the racetrack too.
Yeah. Have you, they've been texting me, but they haven't responded.
Well, I just saw a picture where they're grabbing all the debris.
Yeah, where'd you
out
see
of-
that at? Are you on Facebook?
On
buddy?
Facebook.
And in other news,
Where did you see it?
It just popped up on my phone.
Yeah, because they sent it to me here where they're trying to pull it out. Is that what you got? I guess that's the track handling it, so. Item number 4, discussion and possible action on ratification of agreement with White Sands Construction, Inc. through Cooperative Educational Services, CES, for Meacham Drive Housing Development Project located at 1114 Meacham Drive in the amount of $468,677.34, including gross receipts tax.
Mayor, and that's just the ratification for all the utility installation work.
I'll make a motion.
Yes.
I move that we accept ratification of agreement with White Sands Construction, Inc. through Cooperative Educational Services, CES, for Meacham Drive Housing Development Project located at 1114 Meacham Drive in the amount of $468,677.34, including gross receipt tax.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
So is Renegade the subcontractor?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Ron?
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5, discussion of possible action on biennial memorandum of understanding between the New Mexico Main Street Program, Village of Ruidoso, and Ruidoso Midtown Association to dedicate collaborative resources, adopt local economic growth and revitalization tools, and establish economic development funding for operations and program implementation to restore economic vitality within the Main Street Economic Redevelopment District from July 1, 2022 to July 30th, 2024. Hello, ladies.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
You bet.
Council. So the MOU, so items 5, 6, and 7 are all tied together. They're linked. The MOU is the philosophical commitment of the Village of Ruidoso, RMA, and the New Mexico Main Street Association to work together. That, like you said, the timing is July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2024. The village has budgeted $35,000 for the fiscal year of 2023.
Mayor, at the workshop meeting, we asked Kendra, as part of these agenda items, to come and give an updated report and, talk about her past work plan, what she's accomplished, and then talk about her future work plan moving forward.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Are you guys ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Are you ready?
Oh, a little nervous.
You've only been here for a while.
Yeah.
I had waves of nervous. Like, I wasn't nervous at all, and then about 11 o'clock, I was like, oh my God, I'm nervous.
You don't need to
And
be
then I
nervous.
came in here and I sat down, I was like, oh my God, I'm nervous. And I was like, I'm fine. And then I was like, oh gosh, here it comes again. So, thank you guys. It is actually truly an honor to be in front of you guys today. I see you all around and I feel like we're connected, like you guys know what's going on. And, it's not as intimidating to come before you all as it was, but it's a little.
Well, we would hope it gets easier as time goes
Oh,
on.
does it? Okay.
But we hear a lot, we read a lot, but we're not at the event sometimes, so we don't really know how it turned out. And this is kind of like a debriefing in some of these.
Absolutely, and actually something that just kind of came to my attention, and I'll talk about it here in just a second, is all of these process and procedures that we've gone through. And I kind of feel like I should be coming before y'all a little more often. The last year just blew by. Like, I can't believe it's been a year already. So if we'll just start, we're going to go into this. This next year, the 2023 year, we have a new board of directors in front of us. And this board is the best board. I've been involved with the organization basically since the get-go, and I've really seen it develop. And I mean, those first people that put the back work into creating this organization, they still deserve credit for what they went through to get this thing off the ground, and so to those people to develop up into this board that we're currently looking at, those guys are equally as amazing. We're just rolling with it here, but this board right now is working more than any board I've ever seen, and I think that falls on the educational aspect. And so we have all of these great people here, and I'm going to just run through unless you guys have any questions about any of the board members or the way the board is working, but we've been doing a really great job. As far as being the executive director of the Ruidoso Midtown Association, I came from the board side 1 year ago, and I was a volunteer. I got to show up if I wanted to, and I was really involved. I put a lot of time into it. So I had the most inner working knowledge of the organization, but I had no idea what was going on until the Main Street organization told me, give it a year, you'll feel better in a year, you'll know your job in a year. And a year to the day, I felt better about my job and what I do. I went through, they put me through what's called New Mexico Main Street Executive Director Boot Camp. They really teach you how to run a business. Like, it should be a class in high school. Like, it's great information. It's really engaging and informative, and they really tell you, this is what you do. And in that, I learned that it falls on me to teach my board how to help me, not only to just reach out and ask and say, can you help me, but also why and how we get to those places. So I went through promotional training, design training, economic vitality training, organizational training, historic preservation. I have to tell you guys this for a second, because you guys have been watching me for a couple of years now. I applied for this, or I was going to apply for this position when they first threw it on the ground. I pulled up the application, I filled it out, and I hung up. on historic preservation, it says, what historic preservation knowledge do you have? And I don't know. Well, I now know that I took over a 10-year-old existing business and I've kept it running for the last 12 years and it's 22 years old, and that is historic preservation. And so I went through grant writing and fundraising, which was intense, like to put all of this stuff in action, like, whew. Man, I honestly probably might take those classes again next year just to reinforce, like, I want to learn all that information, and it was so much. Main Street process and procedure, which is what I think I want to come to you guys with a little more often. I just want to give you guys some of those baseline updates of just like, this is what I've done, this is what the state wants to know from me, this is what is going on in the district. Those Main Street process and procedures have us reporting some really cool numbers on like what's going on in the district and the value of what we've put in there, and they use those numbers at the state level to show that the program is working and that all of these things are happening in not only our community but across the state as well. But it helps that we are glowing. We have a really good working thing going here. The next thing is the kiosk. That thing was a foreign alien to me, and Eric and Jen Dalkey from the widget program, he just took sympathy on me, and he learned that machine inside and out, and he volunteered and taught me how to use it, which it took months to figure this thing out. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later, but I want to go through other things. The board of director and support training. I had to learn my role on the board and the board's role, and how do I teach, like, I had a treasurer that doesn't want anything to do with treasury, and there's things that it was just like, oh my gosh, okay, let's get through these things. But it fell on education. You know, you're like, yeah, I want to be the treasurer, until you know, like, well, can I come to you for support on these like financial budget issues? And you're going, no. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so I put very last on here, Village of Ruidoso process and procedure, because I could thank everybody in the room for helping me through all of the things that it takes to cross all of these boundaries and go into all of these worlds. And so I put that down last because that's still a work in progress. So we'll move along here. The kiosk, I want to get to talking about it right away, because this is something that we've had going with Ruidoso for a couple of years now. It's about 3 years old. And so the intention of this project with the Midtown Association was, we're going to use these funds, we're going to provide this interactive advertising space that's going to be used as a source of income for our organization. Well, since that time happened, Ruidoso started an app, and so now we have an official Ruidoso app, so we were able to like tie those two worlds in together. And whenever I took on a year ago that screen was not touch screen, but we updated it to a touch screen app. So you could just come in, and the coolest thing, you could just touch, plan I'm right here in Midtown, and you could plan I want to go to Bonito Valley, and it would send you a location straight to your phone. Do you want to send this device to your phone? And so it was a really neat interaction application that was happening, really high tech, very valuable, finally on the ground, finally up to date with media. It took a long time to get to where I needed to be with this thing. We finally have interested parties in advertising on that screen space, because it's finally kind of got some attention going on it. It's a 3-year-old piece of electronics. And right after the speaker system was installed, for some reason it quit working. Unfortunately, I'm just going to get to the point and say black screen of death. I don't know what happened. It just quit working. We've tried to pick apart, we think it might have been vandalized, but it was cleaned the day after they had found it, really, probably egged, but it looked like milkshake got spilt on it or something. It was working the next day, and then the day after that, when they did the speakers, I don't know what's going on with it, y'all.
Is it an outdoor unit?
It's an outdoor unit. I've called, we dug up, Judy helped me go and dig into old files in the warehouse to try and find a purchase order and a number and all this stuff so we could see if there's any warranties. And I have had everybody, Justin and Matt have looked at, everybody has looked at it, and it's just probably I'm gonna have to buy a new screen or something like that. So that's what's going on with the kiosk, y'all, and it's a sad little update, and I don't wanna just kinda skip past it, but I was really gonna be proud of that kiosk, because I was there, and then a couple of weeks ago, I don't know what's going on with it, so we'll work on it.
I wondered how long that was gonna last in an outdoor environment.
3 years.
Yeah.
3 years was pretty good, and so that's why I say that, just being realistic, it lasted longer than a phone. And, you know, they're pricey tools, but cool, and it has a good purpose, and we want Midtown to feel up to date. We want our visitors to feel like they're in 2022 in Ruidoso. So I'm gonna keep working on that. If anybody has any other questions on that,
So we have one at Hall of Flame and at Ruidoso Downs.
At the visitor center. We moved it. It was at the one at the convention center. But Tim has got a good grasp of what's going on over there, and he feels like there was like media overload over there. They have screens when you walk in, and there's screens, and there was a lot going on. And so, but when down at the visitor center, it's not that we're bringing it up to that screen update.
Because we now have TVs that run the calendar and everything.
Yeah, so that's working well. And so I'm gonna just keep working on that, y'all. I'm just gonna keep working on it.
Okay.
It's where we're at with that. So next up is our projects in action, because a year ago I learned that people asked me a lot, what does the Ruidoso Midtown Association do? And you don't wanna at that exact moment. And so I've gathered things that happened before me that need to be continually worked. If these things aren't continually worked on, or somebody's not holding somebody else accountable or following up with these things, they fall apart, and you don't even remember that you did this work 3 years ago. And so these are projects that are in action, and I'm sure that maybe you guys have had a glance at this, but the Village of Ruidoso partnerships, we are working strong with this annual work plan, the economic transformation strategy, with project implementation plans in place. We created a man on the street reporting this summer as a new duty for me to take on. I think you guys probably have seen my face on Facebook, and I've gotten positive attention.
Oh, you do good. That's good. That's
Yeah.
the talent you have, for
Yeah,
sure.
thank you. And it's a positive attention for people looking into Ruidoso about just kind of trying to find something that's going on and how Ruidoso operates. I have the opportunity to report in the mayor's newsletter, the Village Insider. Oh my gosh, so much good response. I put my cell phone number in that. People call me. I've been a business owner in Santa Fe for 40 years, and I didn't even know that you guys removed the snow. I wondered how that got done. And I mean, you know, so great, y'all. Special events. Special events are a really important part of our community. I went through Ruidoso on there because we partnered to make Ruidoso what it should be this year, and that was incredible. We'll talk about that. That has a whole place in this here in a few minutes. This is the biggest one I want to report to you guys, is that we are hosting the New Mexico Main Street Fall Seminar here in Ruidoso. That is incredible news. That is amazing. Like, these people are all of the Main Street directors from across the entire state. They're required to report to this. It's about educational. It reminds us about Main Street. But to be hosting it in Ruidoso is an honor. And so to be having that come here, that's the biggest thing I think that our organization has achieved with Main Street.
Kendra, do you have a date when that week?
On September 14th, 15th, and 16th. And I would love for you or any of y'all to be there. And it'll go through their Main Street presentations, which are extremely interesting, really engaging, really teach you about Main Street in a quick, nutshell. And then Dakota and I are getting the opportunity to showcase Ruidoso. That means we were chosen by the state of New Mexico to represent all of Main Street as being an operating program that's functioning well enough to speak before all the other programs about all of our success. So it's just incredible. That I wanted to really give, because it's like one little line in my whole entire, but that is big deal. So our Parks and Recreation partnerships are stronger than what they ever were. I don't really know why maybe they weren't as strong before. I think they were there. The partnerships were there. It was kind of like, if I had to, I would get back there at Rodney if I had to. But he answers my calls at 6 o'clock in the
It
morning.
goes back to what Councilor Hooker said, communication.
Yes, it's just tight and it's working right now. Where every like little things that are like happening, there's a chain of communication happening that's smoother than ever before. I'm able to say, I had a call that there's, a problem in Midtown with this trash dumpster, and like within the hour, there's somebody down there cleaning it up. And this is based on just, small potatoes. So that's the mass communications, door-to-door informational. We've been really wanting to put our face in front of everyone else's face. When it's frustrating when you've been an operating program for 4 years and you still have people saying, well, we don't know what the Midtown Association is. We don't know what you people do. So we're trying to get out there and make them feel like we're doing something and answering those questions. Door-to-door distributional has happened this year in a team effort. So it's not just like one person, it's been a really neat thing that we started. Midtown is amazing. You all know waste. I'm going to skip through some of this stuff. Snow removal, that's been happening for a couple of years. Incredible. Speaker system was a change. My phone was on fire for about 3 days after that happened. It was like, what happened? Like, it's been quiet for all this time. And now all of a sudden I haven't heard anything about it. No one has said anything about it in weeks. So speaker system is taking to adjustment well. And then just overall project communication and support. The Chamber of Commerce partnerships, those guys are right there. They're strong and helping too. And I see where I could be working with them more, but they share storage space with us. They always positively promote us. We collaborate over Halloween. Again, strong connection. People call and say, and they connect, and it's a quick timeline. And so there was sponsorships and contributions this last year. We got a private donation, which was pretty incredible because it seems like it should just be easy. Like, we're a nonprofit. Like, would you guys give me some money? Anyone? $5? What do you guys got in your wallet? I'll take it. And so, but we got a $3,000 donation this last year, and it's a goal of mine to work on doing better with that. Let's get that up. I really want to challenge my board. Everywhere that we made $200, I'm challenging my board to make $300 this next year. So maybe it'll be $3,400 in contributions next year. Let's see. And so, but more people than I could list came through and contributed, and I won't read them all, but and tons of little minor donations that you would be surprised really add up. Just, hey, would you do this for us? And then this person does this for us. And 3 people down the line, this great task has been accomplished. And it only took a 30-minute window. But it's, this group effort. And so much has happened in projects and action. And I'm going to move forward to more projects in action too, unless you guys want to stop about anything here. Special events. So these are also projects in action. I wanted to give Dosa its due. If you saw it or you heard about it or you saw advertised or you saw pictures, it was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible to be able to utilize what our community has done and the way that it's been structured to spend funds and that we could have taken this and done this opportunity. It turned out phenomenal. It'll be something that people will be talking about, looking forward to for years and years to come. We had 8 bands. 57 vendors, 10 alcohol vendors, 200 volunteer hours on my organizational side was generated. We had 2,000 attendees to that. We partnered with the Dosa Tattoo Expo, which was another event that was big in town. We partnered tight. We tried to be so on the same page and know what was going on. The Village of Dosa, Parks and Recreation, Tourism Department, this worked and clicked. I want to say the best that it ever has. It just worked. And then the agency was on point. Those guys are running a tight ship over there. It's burning some fuel. And then Elevate Hotel stepped up. There's more people than I could have, minor partnerships, but those are some of the big ones that connected. We had about $88,000 in ticket sales. We did $5,000 in merchandise. We split $2,000 in parking sales with another smaller organization. We did $5,000.
Who was the organization?
The traveling softball team. That's Victor Montez and his group.
How was that decided?
Would you do it? Like,
Well, what did they do? I'm just
we,
curious.
we ran through every organization in town. We
Nobody
tried
wanted to do it?
Nobody had the availability to do it. We asked the Humane Society, we asked everyone, and at the end of the day, the day before, Victor said these softball kids need to raise money, and he put them out there in that parking lot, and they made $1,000 that day. So that's that community thing too, that another entity that needed money profited off of this, and because they came forward and we needed their help, because it was a big deal. The whole entire scene was a big deal. Rio Dosa Midtown Association spent $19,955, and I had a $20,000 budget, you guys. That was close. I got $45 left. And so we made about $100,000 in total. The whole entire shebang made about $101,000 or so. It was very successful for a 2-day weekend out of Wingfield Park. With a combination of what we did, it was a lot of work, but you can't put a number on that. The number was good.
Well, I can put a number on it.
Yeah.
But, and take a breath while you're there. I'm thinking you're about to pass out over there. You're talking so fast. But one of the things I want to try to get firm is lodger's tax. I didn't see their name in there.
Okay.
They provided the money for Pat Green and for, well, I can't remember the guys. Yeah, and so that was money that was put in. That was 70,000.
Or yes,
And you put in 20 roughly. So we're at 90 grand, and that was a loss leader. The lodger's tax knew. That's all the different things that are put into that.
Yes.
So can you go back to that screen? It finally got where I could see it. So our total expenses, and so did you do a debriefing afterwards? And what did we learn? And can you give me some of the things that maybe y'all went through that you learned?
We learned areas where we could have advertised in a greater capacity. We learned where the entire event kind of flawed and where it excelled. As far as expenditures, you always want a goal that we think we can reach a higher number. We wanted to reach that higher number this year, but obviously in debriefing, we talk about how do we get to those higher numbers? How do we make sure that we have a higher crowd coming? How do we have a tighter system, a longer advertising window? All of these things that we would like to try and improve on, I think. And then,
well, like the success of the layout, the vendors, the ones that participated, attitudes, things like that. Do y'all talk about that? Who was easy to work with and who was not?
Yes.
You want to remember those. And then about coordination.
Yes.
About, people, because I didn't get to go to that one, but a lot of events I've gotten into, the volunteers sometimes aren't such good volunteers. Have you worked through that? They slipping in the back gate, things like that. So y'all went through all of those issues, and I know there were some issues before. And then how do we get, and I don't want to bring up the negatives because I think it turned out awesome. And so many people worked so hard, but hopefully we learned those little nuggets that next time we're in this planning stage, that it'll make the next one even more smooth. Because it's hard to see you guys stressing so much on the day of.
Yes.
When we got one person that was supposed to be there at 8 or 9 o'clock, and so, okay, go ahead.
We talked about a lot of things that probably could, and a lot of areas that we could make them tighter. And then I appreciate you pointing out, when I put this together, I just kind of cheated and used this preformed cell that I already had and moved it over to this slide, and it didn't include that number, but it is very well, that's why I say that I'm really thanking the village for, the
Well, it was a big collaborative event, but the coordination and the working and getting people motivated to help and, all those different things takes a lot of work. And I know you put a ton into it. Y'all did.
Yes, we did. And I think that one thing that stuck out that I think Elizabeth and I learned together And I think that this is that year-long learning curve thing, is that everything, like you know, creating these things from the ground, from watering the grass and planting the seed and watering the grass, is that, you know, your 2-year-old grass is easier to mow and water than tending that soil. And so we're still in that tending soil phases on some of these things, and I see it working. So I think I was pretty proud of it. So I think it did well for considering that, you know, it's what it was.
Yeah, no, I think you guys did a great job.
Yes. Anything else about Bruidoso that anything really, because I appreciate the input as well, because that's going to come back. We'll see it again. So anytime, but reach out to me anytime if you guys think about something about that. I'll move on to the next.
Okay.
Because we have more projects in action. When you look at our annual contract, it says that we'll do that we're under obligation to do 2 events, special events a year. And we do 2 special events a year, but we have these other events that are around that we can't add to that list of 2. We do 2 and. So the Halloween in Midtown, incredible. That's the best thing we ever did. And it's been working. Chamber of Commerce, the Parks and Recreation, the RMA does the pumpkin roll. We added the coffin race to it this last year. It is 3 hours of smiles and family fun. And we're just going to keep trying to make that bigger and better every year. And so the Ugly Sweater Business Mixer, I would consider it our second.
I'd like to make a statement on the Halloween thing, because I heard it this year. It was a great move to do it on that Wednesday because my grandkid says now we can get candy 2 times this week. So, but I heard it from everybody else, the school district and the businesses and that was a great move, moving on to Wednesday.
Yeah, feeling that sense of organization, because I know that I know some of you guys have been connected with Midtown before, but how did we ever just do it on the same day? Like, it was just magical. I was there for 10 years. I would just today's candy day, people, and all the neighbors were out giving away candy too, and because we never did it on that weekend. So the day rotated every year, and so anyways, yes, that's one of those organizational things that's working.
I actually heard from naysayers, and I told them they're crazy, that Wednesday's the perfect day because the kids get out early. Otherwise, they're having to.
It's an early out day.
Otherwise they pick up their kids at noon to take them home and get them dressed up to be down there by 3 o'clock.
Yes.
And I said, no, Wednesday's the perfect day. You're not going to interrupt their school, and they have more time to do all these activities.
Or the other sad side of that was the kids that are driving through Midtown like this at 3:30, because it's everybody's giving out candy and they're on the bus because they don't have the resources to be there.
At first, I was kind of like, really on a Wednesday? And it's like, oh wow, that's a perfect day. Whoever came up with that idea, you right?
Yeah, it was it was a
no,
group
take
coordinate.
credit.
Thank you. Yes,
I'm trying to feed you a line there.
Oh no, I was the mom. I was definitely the mom that was like, you guys realize no, and that's one of those things that when we have these kinds of organizations happening, I don't have any other parents in our immediate organization that were aware of our school system. I was the parent that was aware of the school system that said, hey, the kids let out on Wednesday early. We should always just do this. So we're going to move forward to the Ugly Sweater Business Mixer. I would call that our second event. The reason I want to capitalize on the Bruidoso and the Sweater Mixer being the 2 events is they are the 2 most successful events that RMA has done consistently. That since year 1, Bruidoso and the Mixer have gone continuously better and smoother and grown, and those are the 2 events. Halloween got added on there. That's great that that's working. And then so the business mixer, it was just intended, we kind of in the early years had goaled for it being quarterly. It's just a lot of work to do these things. There's a lot going on quarterly, to be throwing a party quarterly as well, and so it's narrowed down to always being successful and enjoyed and looked forward to at Christmas time. So we took it and ran with it. It is what it is, and it does what it's intended to do, brings everybody together, raises a little bit of money, and we put that money in the pot with the rest of the funds that we are going to do something for the community with. And so we added, just recently, we want to add a food court down on the new country club lot. We want to, under a special permit on the weekends during these busy times, offer the
So how does that work? Because we have an ordinance on this, and I see it says this is a new addition, board member. So did you talk to restaurants down there?
I have. And Elliot's one of the restaurants down there. And then like Kamal is right there across, and they are operating on family hours. They, that's slow. They close at 5. And these people are really wanting to come in and do it as a special event intention, that they're there to make money, that they want to operate until 9 o'clock
They don't
at
pay
night.
property tax, they don't pay any of that, so that's where I'm going.
Sure.
So is this every weekend? Because I haven't heard any of these people comment on any of it. That's why I'm asking.
We're hoping that it can be through the busy times, especially during the summer. We'd like to try it out and get it going through the end of this summer at least. But we haven't got it confirmed. We're trying to get these things worked out. I did apply for the special event.
Okay, Rodney.
With,
I was gonna say, Rodney.
So, we were working on, processing an application for that request. Right now, it's only for the 3 weekends in August, but I did mention to Kendra that the applications, when they come through, it's like a one-time, it's not a blanket,
You're right, every weekend.
We would evaluate it, and then, of course, department directors would all have input, whether, we would look at it moving forward again. It's kind of a trial thing. Again, we have that application in hand, and we're reviewing it with directors, but.
Mayor, I have a question on that, Rodney. We only offer to everybody else to have 2 a year. How come we're offering a 3?
Special event applications on public property have different stipulations than private property. Events on public property, there's not a limit to them, whereas there is on private property. And I'm not sure why that's the way I understand the ordinance.
The mayor's right, and also, I remember when that ordinance came about, and it was because of a lot of the merchants and food establishments in Midtown and in town that were totally against all then it was called itinerant vendors coming in. And, to your point right there, where you're talking about public and private properties, do you recall the one where the one lady, she was in Wingfield, and then the last year she operated the particular event, which was bringing in vendors. She went to Two Rivers Park.
To what?
To the
Two Rivers
Two
Park.
Rivers.
Oh, yeah.
Two Rivers Park, and that was last year she had it. But that was the reason that the ordinance even came about, is because of the complaints from the merchants. They were essentially complaining and vocalizing that they were coming in without permits, or even if they did have a permit, that they were the ones that were here all year long. They're the ones
Paying
that
property
paid.
tax,
This is
employing
the other
people year
thing.
round.
And then these people are allowed to come in, operate for a day or two, take their
Big
business.
weekends.
And essentially, they're saying they're taking their business. So that was really the whole reason behind that ordinance.
So, the ordinance, in the way I understand it, and the way I recall the way that happened, is that particular event outgrew Schoolhouse Park. It was creating issues with pedestrians crossing a state highway, which the village or the state was not interested in taking on that liability. And so that kind of morphed into Wingfield Park. The way I understand it today, if that particular woman chose to have those shows, she could continue on a continued basis without a limitation. Really what happened out of those shows growing so big is we removed Schoolhouse Park and Two Rivers Park from
Overuse.
having the ability to have special events. So we really encouraged the use of Wingfield Park at the time.
But they're limited, because you remember we had one lady that went and marked every weekend. Remember that?
She attempted to mark every weekend and then rent it out.
And then she'd sublease it and try to do all these different things and take a cut. So we individually look at those businesses, and everything else on the food trucks, they have to be permitted by the environmental department. We got to know where their waste is going. And then we had trucks that said, well, we're not going to use your dump. We're going to drive it to Alamogordo, and Alamogordo didn't have a permit for them. So, it's just us doing our due diligence. But the thing about it is, you can have an event once in a while at Wingfield Park where you're selling jewelry and you can do whatever. And then the jewelry stores, if you're having it every weekend, they're going to be saying, whoa, I've got a jewelry store down here. So I want to make sure that we're talking to everybody, not to people that are closing at 5, because I know a lot of restaurants, there's not a lot down there, but, we do want more food, but, that they are open till 9 and 10 o'clock. And I know we could use more, but, we're going to be able to utilize parking there too? Because we were talking about parking, as a parking lot. But that food truck situation can be very delicate if it's overused.
Mayor, and then if we're gonna start opening that up for special permits, are we letting everybody do it, or how do we, identify?
There's a lot of ripples that we need to explore before we put this out for the public. Because if I can guarantee you that, and I got a text a while ago and it said food trucks, ? And so that's why I was looking at that part. Because it hadn't been vetted just yet. And before we print and post, we like to vet it and talk through it. Not to say it's not going to happen, because I know that whenever you did the, what was it down there? They had a band.
Right.
And you had a brewery there and a couple of food, it was very popular. I went down there that day. It was really nice. But every weekend might be taxing the people's patience that pay property tax, have invested in their business,
Well, I
And
think
again, I'd like to stress again that it's on the application that we haven't handed, that's only 3 weekends in August.
And there again, Rodney, how did we open that up to everybody? The other ones that we had was a public event that we held. Now you're talking about a private organization that's coming in and doing it. So have we given everybody else the opportunity or made everybody else aware that that opportunity exists?
Well, I believe we have. We have a special event application process that's been in existence for longer than I.
Long time.
Very long.
Yep.
Hosting a special event on public property, again, it's based on that ordinance. It's been in existence for a very long time. Now, whether it be RMA, Parks and Rec, JNS Sound, anyone who wants to put in an event, we process the applications through our office. And so I would say if you're new to the community, maybe you're not quite, aware of that process. But it is, I would say, that opportunity is out there for anybody. And it's been a long-standing process. Again, if you're new to the community, you're not quite aware of the process.
Not with the food trucks. That's not part of that process.
Because
That's
didn't we,
excluded.
wasn't there a food truck across from that property?
there was
the-
one at the brewery.
the brewery.
Yeah, we went through this years ago. You were talking earlier about the Two Rivers Northfield Park deal, but years ago, Jenny Dorgan owned some property and she wanted to put a hot dog stand. And then the other food vendors said no, because she wanted to rent out her space. And then we went through all that, shut it down. And then there was an allowance made if you owned the property and you had a full-time commissary, which is a bathroom, all the other things that the restaurants have to provide, a place to wash your dishes, keep your stuff. That was Sacred Grounds. And we put that one in there temporarily. And then other people wanted to start putting them in there with the winery down there, that they were wanting to back one into that driveway. And then we got people have Airbnbs, that they're moving in. They're just every little niche they're trying to fill. But the purpose is that we're not trying to just totally protect the Midtown businesses, but if you have a business license for it, you're here full-time, you're employing people full-time, you deserve some consideration. And that's why I want to make sure that we've excluded food trucks that whole time from that Midtown area. And then on special events like we have at Wingfield, when you have Dosa, that's a different deal. But we're talking about setting one down there all day. You're going to have 3 or 4 of them down there like they've got in the Downs with the lights going up and around. And those are going to be down there the busiest time of the year, August, we're going to have them down there. And I don't know how many you're going to have, but I think those are things we need to discuss. It's different than food truck's not an event, special event.
No.
Right.
A special event is something that's a side of, that's
Yes,
an
sir.
amenity.
So the way I interpreted, they were gonna do like you've heard of them in lots of other communities, where they bring in food trucks for a day with a variety of them. That's what it's anticipated being like that. So I had mentioned, you know, trying to use the discretion of my experience of running these, we were just gonna do it for those 3 weekends. What I would offer is, or what I would ask or request is to consider a one weekend. And then, so process it that way and then get feedback from, we're gonna have feedback from the.
The
businesses.
FAQs, it
And
took me
the-
years to understand what that was, but
The other
frequently
thing
asked question is GRT. Are they gonna be registered in the village, collect it and remit it in the village? Because that was an issue. These people would show up and they're gone and we don't know what happened to the money. It went to wherever they are, their business license is. Do they need a local business license? They're gonna have to get the 25 or 35. Do we show proof of insurance? Make sure that their inspections are up to date. Where are they dumping their wastewater? And that's what I'm saying. There's a lot to it. And so we're gonna have to have forms, our own inspectors and all that stuff.
If that's what what the council, the governing body would recommend, we can follow up with that. However, that has not been the process. So what we require is, so they have to get certified through NMED. Whenever we have a show that has food vendors, we share that with NMED because they perform the inspections, not only of the license, but of the dumping. As far as the payment of
GRT.
taxes, it's gone a little bit different ways over the years. So back when that was a hot topic with Midtown vendors, we were requesting copies of CRS numbers. But that has dropped off. We do not request copies of CRS numbers. The way I interpret the special event application process is that they do not, by going through that process, they're not required to get a Village of Ruidoso business license. That is one thing that I do know. That permit serves as like a temporary license. And when we went, the reason being is whenever you bring in a show with like, say 100 vendors, otherwise we would be sending 100 vendors to the village to get 100 business licenses. And so that serves as their.
And how much are we renting Wingfield Park for?
The fee that we have Wingfield Park designated by ordinance is $150 per day and $75 for half day, which is up to 4 hours.
And I know putting on outdoor events, you have a lot of risks there, you know, but I just always thought it was strange that we could come into town on a busy weekend, pull
They're
it
not talking about
in.
Wingfield Park, they're talking about.
It don't matter.
property.
It don't matter.
Well-
You're taking Wingfield Park and you're setting it down the
What I'm
road.
saying is, we don't have anything in ordinance to say how much that rents for, that other space. Because it's
And so
a
what-
recently acquired property.
And for comparison's sake, so the majority of our properties, and we had run these through ordinance, I think 2 years ago is when we updated it, and that's when we increased the fee for Wingfield. So, like green space, it's $75 a day, is typical. We doubled it on Wingfield, which was the $150. So, in reference, we would apply that same concept. It would be $75
Right.
for the day for that fee to rent that park.
So, one of the, in Roswell, I don't know if they did it this summer, but they've done it in the past, is they have like one night a month where food trucks come through down Main Street. And the thing about that is it gets people to move around and they're visiting all the businesses. The businesses stay open later so that you're bringing more business to the downtown area. This idea is taking it all down to that one area, and there's no real event. It's just going to be food trucks. You know, what I would suggest is a possibility, and I'm not completely opposed. I'm surprised that you haven't gotten more pushback from people, to be honest with you, hearing about all the stuff. But maybe instead of putting all the food trucks in one location, put them in those bump outs down through there.
I wanted to just kind of add to something that you said primarily, but it touches on what you just said, is that I think that we're seeing Midtown evolve a little bit, and I think that that's the communication at work, where some of these even older key players are curving. Mountain Arts Gallery was adamant on having Halloween on the day, on that either Thursday or Friday, no matter what, and we moved it to Wednesday. curved, came back around and told me, you know what, I want to correct. I was adamantly against that, but I like the way this worked. And even though that person came to me aggressively and said, I do not like you guys moving this to a set day, but then after we did it, they came back and curved me. And so I think that we're seeing that happen a little bit more. I think that we're seeing that the Midtown businesses are a little more open to some of those changes. Last August, when we did the fun run in downtown and we took those cutouts away, we put food vendors on that. Huge compliments from those businesses that we're talking about, that we have the potential of them complaining about. Because Michelle O'Brien is on our board and she is down on that end down there. She was thrilled about the idea of more food, extended hours.
Well, sure, she sells clothes.
Yeah, and I understand. I just wanted to say, again, just to kind of wrap this up, I wanted to say that I don't have the approval to move forward with this. I put this on here to just show that we're trying to grow, that we're just trying to see these things, go through the processes. If this doesn't work out, we're going to find something else and move on to something else. So that was really, I didn't mean to like kind of really distract my my intentions here today on something that just that's just in the works. I really wanted to use it as an example of us continually working, that we're on the move with these things. When entrepreneurs are coming to us saying, can we please park our food trucks down here? We're doing that middle work of coming to you,
They've been asking since I've been around, you know,
Exactly.
and
so
they've done it, and it's never been very positively received after the restaurants. Everybody else is all for it.
Yeah.
It's the restaurants down there that are like, what, you want to sell jewelry, you want to sell T-shirts, you want to sell cards, you want to sell, you know, hamburgers out here too in front of, and that's when it starts falling apart. And that's what I'm saying, we need to really vet all of that before we get that message out there, because you remember when we were talking about Midtown and trying to help during the COVID, and we were going to have some extra areas, and then the rumor got started we were going to take lanes out and we were going to do this and all. Okay, I've learned my lesson. I want to make sure that we've done these things. We turned down the zip line already. Remember, we thought that was a slam dunk, and y'all didn't want that, or somebody didn't want it. And it was you. It was you. Anyway, it's just things like that because so many different businesses talk, and they're not as inclined when you come in and say, hey, are you for this? And you got one of the long timers down there. They don't like confrontation. And so they don't tell you, and that's why I get texts and they call me saying, are we here again? You know, we're doing this again? You know, and it's like, well, we can change because they have changed. You know, and so if we sit down and talk to them and say, can we at least try it?
Yes.
And then move forward and get their buy-in, just like you did on the deal coming up. Downshift Brewery. You know, because they want to do the deal back there. Immediately I said, nah, you got to go talk to the businesses. And the businesses said, hey, that was a win for me. I thought that was great. So we'll see that collaborative effort, and then it may lend strength to your deal down the street. So just take little baby steps but talk to these people and make sure they understand what you're trying to do and that they don't feel like they're slipping in. Because the one that liked the bump out deal, before she was totally against it, and she was on Facebook and she was on everything, and we're a bunch of idiots when she was on TV. Remember her? Yeah. And then it was okay.
Yes,
you know,
I understand.
but get their buy-in.
That's why I want to in essence, I'm kind of glad this conversation happened too, because I want to remind that that's what we're here for. That's what the organization was put in place for, is so that you guys don't just randomly have, because like Rodney's saying, like this one private entity said, hey, we want to do this, and it, you know, made it through the heads of department, and then all of a sudden the next meeting, you guys have 20 angry business merchants in here saying what happened. That comes through us first.
Sure.
And that's where I'm saying that
Well,
this is working.
It's like in the Insider, I put, because so many people have come to me and said, man, I love this town. You guys are so progressive. And when I heard them say that about Dosa, I'm like, what do you mean by progressive? And then they're talking about these things that are moving forward. Yes. And one of them was a business owner.
Yes.
And that hasn't been here but a couple of years. She goes, man, you guys are so progressive. Yeah. And it's trying things out, but it's getting the people to buy in and, you know, sell them before we tell them.
Yeah.
And it's their idea, and then we can move forward on all of it.
Yeah.
So that's all I want. But we'll still need to discuss the food court, the food on special event. Yeah, but
Yeah, and that's where that is as well,
Is
so.
it special if it's every week?
Well, Kendra, to start discussions, sometimes you have to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And then you can vet that idea. And if you were afraid to think outside the box, you're never gonna change.
Sure.
So I commend you for it. I don't like the term,
Sure.
food court, I think of a
Yeah,
mall.
yeah.
But we gotta think outside the box and go from there. And at least you're doing that, and you're not just, well, this is what we've done for 20 years, we're gonna keep doing the same darn thing every year, so.
Sure, just because of what, like, we just all collaborated on it, that, we're talking about multiple business owners that objected to multiple plans, and then after those plans took place, came back around and were like, oh, it worked. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes those places need to have, like, be walked through the process, and that's what the organization is there doing. And I feel like I've been able to blend some of those worlds in the last year, where some of them were just not even getting blended. I feel like personally, I think that, like, that afraid of confrontation, that applied to the last administration that was operating the organization, that there was such a fear of confrontation that it wasn't moving forward in the right directions. When I put my face out there within weeks and we did that fun run in August, it was brutal. Like, I was weeks within doing my job, and it was like not really like the best introduction for, like, oh, this is the person that you're gonna go to, and then like 50, 100 people were like, no, we don't want this, and once we got past that, even like half of those 50 people came back and went, well, that was really cool, okay, you did a good job.
Yeah, you got growth over here, and you got, comfort here, and in the middle's pain.
Yes.
And it's the more information you give them,
Yes.
the less the pain, and then as long as they're on board, they'll give you specifics on things to watch out for.
Yeah.
And it's a hard process until you get it rolling.
It is.
So-
It absolutely is. So I'm gonna move forward from special events.
Okay?
And so the New Mexico Main Street 4-point approach, thank you, Rodney, thank you very much. The New Mexico Main Street 4-point approach, we talk about that, and I want to bring it up like regularly whenever I talk to y'all, because that is the structure that the Rio Dosa Midtown Association is reporting to, is the 4-point approach through the state of New Mexico. That's also a national, on a national level, and it's based on organization, promotions, design, and economic vitality. And how is the Rio Dosa Midtown Association doing those things? And I have it broken down into these square, clean lines here, that organization is fundraising plans and event planning, door-to-door, promotion. We have 2,000 people clicked on links last year, or 200,000 people clicked on links through that Facebook post. The Village Insider, those things are promotional. They're working. They're successful. In design, we have the Facade Squad interested in improving both public and private properties. That's also being the one in the middle of being able to go to these people and say, like, well, your things stick out of the wall and people hit their heads on them. Can you drop $5,000 out of your pocket and fix this? And so that's design at work right there. The New Mexico Main Street program provides services to the program that do cost money. New Mexico Main Street funds those services. So when I put a special request through the Main Street services to receive assistance from their specialist, New Mexico Main Street pays for those services, not the Village of Rio Dosa, not the Rio Dosa Midtown Association, New Mexico Main Street. So we actively have a $16,000 wayfinding service request in motion, and that's working on improving the wayfinding into downtown. So that's real money investment return that I'd like to point out right there. That's money coming back that y'all didn't have to cut the check for, you didn't have to think about it or do it. We worked through that system, that's happening, we're absorbing the benefits from that money coming all the way from Main Street. Creative placemaking, that would be exactly what the deep conversation that we just had. That falls into design efforts and creative placemaking, because we're talking about using a space and targeting some creative potential for that space. This goes all the way down to bathrooms and parking lots and public amenities. There's a lot that happens in design. And so you think that it's fun the way that you can explain it to people as how the 4-point approach works is that we're gonna cut down a tree. That's a design item. And so we need to go tell everybody that we're going to cut down the tree. That's organizational. We're going to go through and tell everybody we're cutting down the tree. Now we need to promote why we're cutting down the tree. The tree was old, the tree is dead, we've got to cut down the tree. We're going to let the public know the tree is going. And then economic vitality is now that we cut that tree down, there's clean access to those businesses on the other side of what was a dead tree. That's how the 4-point approach works on every project that we do through Midtown. And I just want to explain that, and I wanted you guys to see it right here. So that's where that works. I can move forward from this unless you guys have any questions about the Main Street 4-point approach. And then our annual budget this last year is really simple. It's just to the point of how we operated. The board is set up successfully because we're all working together the best that we possibly have. We're coming back out of global pandemic. We have the ability to raise funds for ourselves, to outreach. We have a system and people working behind those systems to reach out for donations or to get on the street and look for those funding opportunities. We're going to run about $40,000 in special events approximately. I have Mountain Smoke Barbecue Festival on there as a potential. I didn't really take a lot of time to talk about that. That's an event we've been trying. We've tried it a couple of times, and it's really not it's just not landing in the right places. And so that's why I wanted to be specific with it. In my opinion, our key events are the Dosa and those mixers that we hold. We have a plethora of other projects in action. There's other events happening, and maybe the Mountain Smoke Barbecue Festival will land in the right place in this next year. I went ahead and put it on there for a goal because my board has discussed it. We need executive director operating funds, and then we need business operational funds that came in right around $10,000. We operated on a scale of about $100,000 this last year, which was right on par to what I reported to you guys last year, or we reported that we operated on last year. It was actually under that. It was under that because we had just come out of COVID. And so that's where we're operating with our annual budget right now. That is small business scale, but it is what we're doing, the things that we just talked about, these long discussions about design and all of these things that happen, have a greater dollar value than just $100,000. The amount of goodwill that we are injecting into the downtown economy by bracing and bridging some of these gaps has a greater value than just I can sit here and say to you guys like, well, we ran $100,000 and we're going to do it again. And maybe, like I said earlier, we're challenging the board if everywhere. So maybe it will be $200 more. I'm confident it will be. We're going to get there. And so another thing I wanted to point out is that we did just come out of a global pandemic, that we were not on a full operating scale. None of us. Merely 12 months ago, we were barely coming out of this. And in the last year, we were able to generate 851 hours of volunteer time. That's super successful. Some studies, a volunteer hour is worth about $24 to $30 an hour, depending on where you are in the United States. We're in Dosa. It's pretty expensive around here. We're on the higher end. A volunteer hour is worth around $29 an hour. We generated $25,000 worth of volunteer time. That is also a significant visual on return investment between the New Mexico Main Street special service request and the volunteer time alone. The money is being returned. It's working. It's happening. It's there. Do you guys have any questions on the finances? Maybe it'll be double next year. Isn't that what we all goal for every year? We'll say we're going to double it this year, and then we see what we get. And so let's see what we get. I'm going to move forward. I'm almost done, y'all.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah.
Mayor, I had one question, if you don't mind. Kendra and Elizabeth had asked for it, but, when we talk about the event, even Mountain Smoke Fest that we didn't end up doing this year, but Party in the Pines, did we end up getting the analyticals? Because I think that's the piece that we're missing. You haven't really you talked about the event, but when you talk about the lost leader, it's the economic impact to the area.
Yeah, like ticket sales, where are the people coming from when they're coming into town and all that?
We do. That was the one that I was shared with you, that we had such a high ticket purchase from Phoenix, that we were shocked. But I can get that from Carrie, and it shows pockets. It was in the report that I gave.
Yeah, and it's fine.
It shows the pockets, and it showed the convention center, Party in the Pines, and down on Midtown.
Yeah, but that should be able to be translated into economic development, like a dollar amount, financial impact.
Yeah, so when we spend
Yes.
70,
Yes.
Yep.
We can
then you
prove
turn the
that-
money, then we
yes.
see if we're getting advertising dollars
Okay.
returned.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you for that.
Thank
Or
you.
marketing dollars, whatever you
Yes.
call it.
Thank you for that input, I appreciate that. And so, that will fall into my yearly reporting as well. And then again, just thank you, this is the board before you. This was our annual retreat we just did a couple of weeks ago. We sat down and did business, and it's one of the most successful board meetings that I've ever participated in. The board felt really good about it, everybody felt good about going into this next year. We're set up for success, and so not only are we set up for success in our volunteer side, but with y'all's support as well, because we would not be here if somebody had not taken the time to try years ago and put this in place for our community. And it's doing exactly what the national level intended for it to do, and that was to put intended focus on historic designated districts throughout the entire United States that have been in operation for us. We're fortunate, we're in over 100 years now that we've been doing business right there on Sutter for over 100 years now, so we want to protect it and take care of
So
it. And
you start over there with the board members, just so we all,
This is,
most everybody knows them.
on the left, it starts, we have Elliot Taylor, who is the owner of Village Buttery. And then moving left to right, we have Michelle O'Brien, who is the owner of Michelle's Clothing. I would call her officially our historian, because she's been in downtown for like 40 years now, so she's been there a long time. Stephanie Leland, who's just an independent entrepreneur, who's outgoing, and we're fortunate to have her. Debbie Nix, who was on that original groundbreaking board. So she's been involved with the community for a long time. Jeannie Tanner, her name is Jennifer. Jenny Tanner. And she's involved with Tanner Land and Tree Services, and she's a go-getter. She was, I would say, her and Frankie Lee were the reason why the Dosa volunteer scene was so successful. The volunteers were people, our peers in our community, and they showed up and did work, and and of course we can make it a little better, but we did pretty good. And then Frankie Lee Reynolds is right next to her. She owns Addie Couture in downtown, and she started from a vendor situation. She was a drag your food truck around, not a food truck, clothing, but drag your truck around vendor, and now she's been a downtown merchant for 10 years now. Myself is pictured there, and then I have my board president right next to me, that's Dakota Montez, and he and Lance Rowe are right next to each other. I would consider both of them small-scale developers. They both own multiple pieces of property that they're actively developing throughout the community, and that's who we have.
Okay?
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to say, it looks like you do have a great board, but what I have to say is that, without Kendra, who is the motivator, and, she's got me I'll join your board. I just appreciate your enthusiasm and your energy and dedication. It's really a breath of fresh air. Thank you.
I appreciate that compliment. I really do, especially coming from you. Thank you very much. And we don't have Chris Statheimer pictured in that picture. I scheduled it at 5 on a Thursday afternoon, and he was slinging diamonds like hotcakes over there, and he didn't make it. And so we stuck him with the treasurer position, and he's actually accepting that and already doing what he's supposed to do. So, yeah.
Anyone else?
Very good.
Thank you, guys. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. I
Okay.
think we're good to go. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, so we had the discussion, potential spam. We'll have, that was item number 5.
5, yes.
And so we need a motion.
So Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Okay.
To approve the biennial memorandum of understanding between New Mexico Main Street Program, Village of Ruidoso Midtown Association to dedicate collaborative resources, adopt local economic growth and revitalization tools, and establish economic development funding for operations and program implementation to restore economic vitality within the Main Street Economic Development District from July 1, 2022 through July 30, 2024.
Second.
Okay, final discussion? Roll call, Ron.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 6, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2022-38, a resolution of financial support and funding commitment to the Ruidoso Main Street Association for fiscal year 2022.
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2022-38, a resolution of financial support and funding committed to the Ruidoso Main Street Association for fiscal year 2022-23.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item number 7, discussion and possible action on professional services agreement with Ruidoso Midtown Association to promote the Midtown District in the Village of Ruidoso.
Make it, Hooker.
I make a motion to approve, I just clicked it off of there. Give me a second. I make a recommendation to approve the professional services agreement with Ruidoso Midtown Association to promote the Midtown District in the Village of Ruidoso.
Second.
Okay, any final discussion? Okay, roll call.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Thank you.
This just proves you did a really good presentation, that we had all the information to cover these other two items. So very good job, Kendra. And thank you, Elizabeth. for-
Well, and I can tell you, it was this close to that RMA. Not you, but before you got there and started doing what you're doing,
Yeah, thank you.
it was just on its last leg over there.
I feel that, and that's why I really
But
appreciate
you've brought it so far, so fast, and you've got people excited about it.
That's
And
true.
you have a big foothold now, so we just want to make sure we support you, and we're looking forward to your statewide deal.
Yes.
Item number 8, discussion and possible action on ratification of task order 2022-007P-03 with Saul Aguilar, DBA JNS Pro Sound for promotion and production for annual entertainment program for the Ride Ruidoso benefit concerts. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mayor, this is the third event. The village staff has collaborated with JNS Pro Sound. The Ride Ruidoso benefit concerts will take place September 16th and 17th. There will be 7 bands over the 2 days with the headliners Fog Hat and Los Lonely Boys. It will go to benefit the victims of local natural disasters, including the McBride Fire, replenish the resources of the Lincoln County Community Foundation, the Lincoln County Shelter Fund, and the Ruidoso Housing Trust Fund, and the concert will benefit Boys and Girls Club and Toys for Tots.
Okay.
You want a motion?
Yep.
I move that we ratify task order 2022-009P-03 with Saul Aguilar, DBA JNS Pro Sound for promotion and production for annual entertainment program for the Ride Ruidoso benefit concerts.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I seem to remember a mention about how they were going to donate back to the 3 organizations that are being served from the concert.
Yes.
Yes, so I think they deserve credit for that, so if you want to speak to that.
I thought she did.
She did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I mean, she was.
Mayor and Council, I think Counselor Coughlin is speaking specifically about Sal and Joe. When you look at the production agreement, there's $17,000 or $15,000 worth of credit that is coming back out of their services. That is a sponsorship from GNS.
Okay.
So
I
that's
believe
what he's
you're
talking about, hey.
Yes.
Yeah, how they're going to do that. Okay, sorry.
So, no, you're right.
If you mentioned it,
We didn't highlight it.
Yeah.
No,
I should have.
but that they have done a lot and are getting ready to do a lot to turn this thing into something that's successful.
And Mayor and Council, we do list them on all the sites as a major sponsor into the event.
Okay, do we vote?
No.
No.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 9, discussion of possible action on recommendation from Lodgers Tax Committee at the regular meeting on July 26, 2022, to award Blaine Maldonado in the amount of $3,000 in special event funding for the Golden Aspen Bike Rally. And that one is here because,
It is here because they came outside of the time that they were supposed to present earlier in the year. And we did approve it at the new tiered level of 3,000 because it's not a new event.
okay, everybody remembers the tiers.
Yes.
Okay,
I move that we accept Lodgers Tax Committee at their regular, I move that we accept the recommendation from Lodgers Tax Committee at their regular meeting of July 26, 2022, to award Blaine Maldonado in the amount of $3,000 in a special event funding for the Golden Aspen Bike Rally.
Second.
discussion?
Question, in the agreement, it says scope of work explained in Exhibit A. Is that, I don't see anything that says Exhibit A. Is that the lodger's tax funding process?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what the
That's what
3,000
I
goes to.
send them a packet and then with the funding process as a.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Item number 10, discussion. Oh, you got to vote, I'm sorry.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
No.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
And the reason why I said no, they should have been there on the first round when they were issuing these, but I knew it was going to pass, so.
Yeah.
Number 10, discussion on recommendation from Lodgers Tax Committee at their regular meeting on July 26, 2022 for the approval of the design and engineering of Eagle Creek parking area, the design and installation of an 18-hole disc golf course, and funding to support the construction of new tennis / pickleball
See.
courts in Schoolhouse Park with a total amount of $250,066, or is it just redoing the tennis courts, Rodney?
No, sir. Mayor and councilors, it's well, since you asked about the tennis courts, I'll fill you all in on that item. So, you know, with the White Mountain Master Plan, the way it is, you know, we just adopted it. If we're able to get awarded funding for the design, you're looking at a couple years process at least. And you know, as you all know, the pickleball club has fundraised for the last 10 years towards building dedicated pickleball courts. They have roughly about $50,000 that they built up during that time. And actually, the last couple of years, it's been really slow just with COVID. They couldn't host tournaments and whatnot. I actually had a meeting with their new representative, and we're just kind of a regular check-in meeting, visit with the club, get an update, see how they're going. And we had a discussion about, you know, the timeline of having dedicated courts built. They're aware, you know, they did participate in the master plan. They're aware of the process. And just the idea came up about the west courts in Schoolhouse Park are in horrendous shape. They're ultimately unsafe to play on. And they're in a condition that they're not even worth investing money on temporary repairs. We've done it time and time again. They do not last. It's got a horrible subbase. And so it doesn't matter what you do, those cracks reappear, almost immediately. And so we came up with the idea, if they were to willing, contribute their funds towards the reconstruction of those courts, get that set of tennis courts back dedicated solely to tennis, then we could redo the other 4 courts here at White Mountain, and then they would have their dedicated courts in a quicker time frame than what the master plan, being built out was. Ultimately, that master plan does include, I believe 6 different courts, but that's just going to take a few years. But this in a kind of a much shorter time frame would get those courts at Schoolhouse Park repaired, with brand-new courts, and then they would get a dedicated pickleball court. And so that.
Not a new one, just a dedicated one.
It would just be a rededication of this, or a dedication of the surface. So if you recall, last year, we did that with half of the court. So we anchored down some commercial pickleball nets. And so now at White Mountain, you have half of the court, which is set up with 4 pickleball courts, and the other half is tennis. So it'd be kind of the same thing, but doing the other half now.
Of just pickleball.
Just pickleball. And then they would have 4, you'd have 4 tennis, 2 sets of courts at Schoolhouse Park, with one of them being a brand-new set.
Right.
Okay.
I like that.
So that was the idea behind that. Again, it was just me and their representative. I said, if this idea, I really need you to come back with, from full support of your membership, because if this is something that we're going to request funding for, it's obviously going to be brought up. And so he did go visit with this membership, and I have an email verification that they're in full support of putting their $50,000 towards the idea that we just discussed.
Okay, good.
So Rodney, what would the cost be to construct new tennis courts at Schoolhouse Park? I mean, this is 129.
Right. So,
Would the 180 cover it?
no, it wouldn't. And so I wasn't here or present for the lodger's tax meeting. They allocated the available balance that they had towards that. Roughly, it's, I think, about $129,000 what they had towards the construction of
Close to 130,
tennis courts, but the cost is $363,703.02.
So where would the remainder of that come from?
So I believe they wanted to allocate what they had and then evaluate the upcoming budgets as funds are available.
Okay.
Now, is that a post-tension
Yes.
construction? Good. And that's the reason why that's always failed. It was asphalt, and that's when we did the White Mountain ones. That made a big difference, and they've lasted, 22 years. So.
And they're in incredible
And
condition.
you just put the paint on top. Now, I was going to ask you, I recall the reason that those were built, tennis courts there, was to accommodate for the hotel, because we had big discussions on that before. Did we ever resolve that?
So that was kind of the reasoning why we only converted half of that.
Right.
Because we reserved a half still for tennis, but our tennis numbers have really,
They have.
They've
They're-
dropped off
Yeah.
tremendously. But the thinking is they're gonna have multiple courts at Schoolhouse right now, where they only have one set of courts.
But in the master plan, there is like one
Yes.
set of 2 tennis courts. That's what I just want to make the point, that we're not violating our contract with the hotel, that you will get tennis courts eventually.
There's
But you're
multiple.
right. I mean, I think most of their people rather play pickleball or, their visitors and stuff than versus a tennis court. So, I want to reevaluate that contract to see and maybe make it that they're all pickleball courts here. Because that's a smart move to move that as a post-tension, so they'll have the 4 tennis courts. So the tennis team has the 4 courts there. They were always having troubles going back and forth and stuff like that, so.
Mayor, if I may, on the financial matter, I actually stepped into the meeting and asked them just to consider appropriating what they had budgeted. And then if I'm not mistaken, Judy, there's some capital dollars that we still have in the general fund or projects that we can also consider. But Rodney had expressed to me that he had, a plan of moving this forward, and I know the pickleball issue's been there for quite some time. So, I would ask that we go back and evaluate, what capital dollars that we have that we could put towards this. And then if there is additional lodger's tax, we could also go back to them. But, I don't want to see the project die.
Right.
Because I know that Rodney had expressed a good plan on moving it forward, so.
It's a good one.
I don't think we have the total answer of how it's all going to be funded, And if I'm not mistaken, that day, they also got into the discussion, they didn't know exactly what the cost estimate was or if it was a good estimate. So I think we need more information before we move forward with the project, but this is just ratifying the recommendation from lodger's tax.
Well, and my concern is just that they understand that if we don't have the funding, they're still willing to dedicate this towards the project. And I think that's very creative, going back to the pickleball people.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
To clarify that position, I did visit with him, give him an update. Again, the representative, his name's Jim Richardson. But I did visit with him. They are in understanding of the decision that lodger's tax made. The quote that I just shared with you, that 300,000, that is the current quote. At the time of the lodger's tax meeting, we didn't have that, but this is an accurate quote, that $363,000. It's from a CES vendor. It's 363,70302. That is an accurate current quote.
And
Two
Mr.
courts?
So it's a set of tennis courts.
Tennis, okay.
And Mr. Mayor, Rodney, will the other half of that is dedicated to tennis then be dually lined so it can be used for pickleball as well, like we've done at White Mountain?
So it would be just lined for pickleball. So it would be converted. So currently, that at White Mountain, you have half of the court that is lined just for pickleball.
Right.
Then you have the other half that is lined dual for tennis and pickleball.
Right.
But if we convert that, then both sets of the courts, which would be 8 pickleball courts, would be 8 dedicated pickleball courts.
So if I'm following this, you wouldn't play tennis on either one?
Right. The tennis goes away.
But they would
This
have,
would go over to Schoolhouse Park.
they would have the 2 full sets of tennis courts at Schoolhouse Park, where currently they really only have 1, because the other one is in such
Bad.
poor shape. It's,
Yep, we almost made a helicopter pad out of it. That's right. It's close, man. All right, any other questions?
there are 2 other items, Mayor, not that I want to extend the meeting at all, but there's the, part of that
Hotel.
budget request was, the 18-hole course on, property the village owns at, Ski Run Road, and then the other one was for a parking lot, to assist
Design.
with the Eagle Creek Sports Complex development.
And on that 18-hole golf course, now that I got more information, I did run into Everett Brophy, and he did, through Parks and Rec Commission, because that was going to be my question to Rodney, did this all go? And yes, it has. It's been over 6 months, a year maybe, that they've been talking about it. But if you remember at the workshop, I was saying that we needed to make the 18-hole at Moon Mountain an additional, make it a 36-hole. But after talking to Everett, he suggested out at the Eagle Creek area, making that a 36-hole, to design it for a 36-hole. And where I got more excited that, talking about the Wingfield master plan too, that could be expanded in that area. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we could bring in more tournaments, sanctioned tournaments, or as I call it, but he had a different term for it, where it's A-level players, just one step under championship tournaments, which those are the professionals that come from all over the state or all over the country. And our goal is to get international tournaments, so that if there was that 36, we expand Wingfield, and the Wingfield is more for youth design, and I'll approach that it'll be for the 60 and older age bracket for tournaments on that as well. So I would like to amend the 18-hole to a 36-hole with all the amenities, because I did bring up that are there going to be restrooms, like what we got at Alto Lake, at Grindstone, those, just really outhouses. And I would also recommend shelters. not, a big giant shelter, but similar to what we have at Alto Lake on the dam. That would be beneficial. Mainly, I'm thinking of just protection of rain or even a shade spot. Because again, talking to Everett, he has a tournament where he could rotate, tee times, and it just could increase his participation from 200 that we have over at Grindstone, I believe, to 700. So with all three courses going. So I think that would be a good venture to expand while we can, or even design it. And if we only fund 18 at first, then move to 27, because that's what he reminded me over here at Moon Mountain. It was originally designed for 27 holes. However, the schools put a stop to, they didn't want the baskets close to the school buildings or in that area. So that eliminated those 9 holes that would have wrapped around the hole. But I mean, it's a good sport. Just like pickleball, it's picking up again. This has, been around since the 60s and 70s, but somehow it's picking up again as far as for disc golf course. So that would be one of my recommendations of amending that 18 hole to a 36 hole.
But under this, it's $59,000, and that probably won't go far enough to do a 36 hole.
Mayor and councilors, I do appreciate the support, and I would like to, the suggestion of designing it for 27, but funding the 18 that we have now, like Councilor Coughlin is alluding to, because the quotes that I based my request to lodger's tax on was the 60,000. That's all they have available. I would like to design it for 27, but at least fund the construction of the 18.
I'd still like to design it for 36.
Or 36.
And we get the remaining funds from our cash balance and general fund.
But how do we do that if we ain't even finished the pickleball court these people have been collecting on for 10 years?
Mayor.
That's the issue there, that have actually put a bunch of money in it.
Mayor and councilors, so that's why I would suggest sticking with the how I presented the projects, design it for the additional holes, but stick with the budget that I've requested now and just construct the 18.
Can you design it
Yes,
at the higher level with what you're getting now?
yes. So we'll work with the designer to design with that in mind. And it's similar to in nature what we did to Moon Mountain. That course is designed for 27.
For 27, right.
We only installed 18 and kind of a little bit more information. The schools was doing a study at the time on safety where they were going to put up fence, and that was part of the issue. Is some of those holes were within that fenced boundary.
Right, I do remember that now.
Does this need to be a recommendation for approval?
Yep, and so you're gonna go with what Rodney's put
36.
up,
I want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing.
number 10.
See, because it's different on the paper than it is on there.
Is it?
Maybe it's not.
Well, the only thing it would be is designing for a 27 hole,
Or
but
36.
installation of 18
36.
holes.
36 or 27?
I would prefer 36, but Rodney kept mentioning 27.
Well, if we approve it as it's written, and then if there's additional funds, he could design even further without limitation. I don't know what the design cost is. I can't imagine design cost of disc golf is very expensive. He might even be able to go to 36, but leave that option up to him and just approve.
As long as we get a design for 36, I'll be happy.
So I'm going to make this motion as
Just
written.
make everybody happy.
Yeah,
Make us all happy.
that's it.
And I'll go along, but on that shot that, we're really looking, because 10 acres is plenty. That's what I believe the area that's allocated.
It's larger than 10 acres. Eric might know it offhand. I'm terrible my memory's terrible, but I believe you need at least like an acre a hole, at least. But
I mean, so we bought, I mean, just on the spot that's to the east of Manju Peak Road is, I think, 66 acres. And then we have the stretch on the west side of Manju Peak Road. So we've got quite a bit of land.
Is there a lot of trees there? It seems like it's not to me.
That was like one of the
been
first
into
thinning
village.
projects that we
So there's
did.
plenty of space
Kinda
to
rocky,
expand
isn't it?
in the future.
Yeah.
It's,
And we-
there is.
So, everyone's accustomed to the strip of land along Ski Run Road, but we also own back in that valley quite a
Yep.
bit. So there's like 40 acres that we own that's further back there, and it has a lot more elevation change.
Okay. Okay, so you clear as mud, Hooker?
Jeez, I'm just going to read this. I make a recommendation that we approve the Lodgers Tax Committee approval of the design and engineering of Eagle Creek parking area, the design and installation of an 18-hole disc golf course, and funding to support the construction of new tennis courts in Schoolhouse Park in the total amount of $250,000.66.
Second.
Okay, is that where we need to be? Any final discussion?
No.
Okay, roll call, Ron.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
No,
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Is it still gonna be designed for 36 holes?
no, it's for
That's why I
what
voted
year?
no.
That's why I voted no, because it wasn't designed for 36 holes.
Oh, but are you going to?
But
look at
he'll work it out. He'll get it done.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sorry we're so difficult. When they get old, they get tired quick, so, I'm just having to push them through. Item number 11, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2022-37, a resolution adopting a revised procurement policies and procedures manual, providing for the repeal of prior resolutions and written procurement policies and procedures and an effective date. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor and councilors, this is a revision to our procurement manual. As you recall, back around the first of the year, we had hired Tammy West to look at our policy and then to help us with some procurements. So in reviewing our policy, she recommended some changes to our policy, and they are highlighted in green. She also noted some areas in yellow that we may or may not want to keep at this time. I'm just leaving them in there because for our CDBG grant project, our policy has to be updated annually. So I need to get this approved in order for them to continue with that project. And then we'll come back again if we decide to make those changes later on. I can update it again. So a lot of them are just formatting and making some items clear. I did include in the agenda memo her comments on what she changed so that you all would know. If you have any other questions on any of the changes, I can answer them. We didn't change any of the limits or anything like that, so it's all the same limits. Anything, any tangible up to 10 needs 3, doesn't need anything, 10 to 60 needs 3 quotes, and then 60,000 and over needs a form of procurement of professional services. Then you're up to 60,000, you just have to get the best price, and then over 60, you have to do a form of procurement for services.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2022-37, a resolution adopting a revised procurement policies and procedures manual, providing for the repeal of prior resolutions and written procurement policies and procedures and an effective date.
And Karen, for those, and Mr. Mayor, for those in Radio Land, it looked like most of the greened areas were basically to bring us into regulatory compliance. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Roll call.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 12, discussion and possible action on notice of grant and agreement award identifying number NR 228C30XXXX C005 with the U.S. Department of Agricultural and Natural Resources Conservation Service for the Emergency Watershed Protection Program projects from July 2021 flood event with a program match of $376,318.75. Mr. Boyda.
Mayor Crawford, councilors, so as we discussed at the April 5th workshop, we went over all of the different projects that were selected. So this contract is to implement those projects. This contract is just between the NRCS and the Village of Ruidoso. So as the sponsor of the Emergency Watershed Protection Program, we receive the funds. After this contract is signed, we'll work with individual contracts with landowners to get proper easement, to review the recommended projects, and to ultimately get the landowners to sign off on the contract with the village, and then to get the easements and then the project worksheets that are produced from the NRCS that outlines the details of what's going to be implemented. So with this contract being signed, we'll start engaging all of the landowners and starting to secure all those individual documentation.
Okay, now, did we make a decision sometime back, I forget, remind me, that the village was going to cover the 25%?
Correct. So
Okay.
I had recommended that a portion of it be passed on to the private landowners, and so the council had directed me to pursue how we could fund that, and the way that we're going to have to fund that is through an easement on the properties. So the property owners will have to give us.
So we'll get an easement.
Yep. So it's going to be a village-owned and maintained project. And so we'll need to secure easement. And if somebody doesn't want to give us an easement, then we just have to move on. But these are all meant to protect not only village assets, but also their assets. So, and the NRCS
So
selection.
it's protecting our assets and theirs?
Correct. So,
Gotcha.
so some of them
I was
are.
going to say covering, but
Yeah.
I think we're good with that, and everybody understands with that, right?
Yes.
Because we didn't realize we were maybe supposed to be maintaining the last NRCS deal.
Correct. So this is going to set us on a clearer path, so we don't have any gray areas like we had with the last project.
Very good.
So with the approval of this agreement, we'll be looking at reaching out to specific property owners in August through October. And then once we have specific projects that we have all the agreements and easements, we can move forward with the procurement process for it. So we'll also do construction likely starting in early October through December.
Okay, and you get like a waiver from the ones that don't want to be involved? Or a notification that they've declined or something?
Correct.
Yeah. Anything? Can we get a
Does this
motion?
mean we're going to have pink areas?
What's that?
No gray areas, but we're going to have pink areas.
Pink areas.
Yeah.
The walls out there.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve notice of grant and agreement award identifying number NR 228C30XXXC005 with the U.S. Department of Agricultural and Natural Resources Conservative Service for the Emergency Watershed Protection Program projects from the July 2021 flood event with a program match of $376,318.75.
Second.
Discussion?
You know, throw in 20 cents there.
Roll call, Ron.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Discussion, number 13. Discussion and possible action on task order RFP number 2023-001P-01 with DuBose and King, Inc. for professional engineering services for the preliminary design for Cavalier Canyon Bridge and culverts in the amount not to exceed $229,875.72, including gross receipts tax.
So Mayor Crawford, councilors, So like Phoebe and I were mentioning at the manager's report, we're trying to get the village in the best spot to apply for all these upcoming funds. This contract our task order is for up to a 60% design for these 4 major culverts, which I'll review and kind of show you what we're discussing. And then one of them is with the county, that is county maintained. And so the county is going to be entering into a memorandum of agreement with us and picking up the $52,000. But since we don't have that memorandum of agreement in hand, we're approving this whole amount. But just know that it's going to be the village's bill is going to be reduced by $52,000. I won't belabor this discussion, but I did want to just show you guys some pictures, and I'll go through it really quick, just so that you guys can see the locations that we're discussing.
Oh, wow.
So this is Meander Drive. So the right side picture here, this is before we had any debris flows. So this culvert here is a 4 by 6 foot box culvert, and this is the after effect of the debris flow from July 25th. And so that culvert is completely full, and it was overtopping when there was some higher flows. So when we did the H&H study for this site, if we wanted to protect for a 50-year flood event, needs to have a 2 8-foot by 10-foot box culverts, which you're not going to fit in there. It's not big enough. So what we want to do is look at setting up as big a culverts as we can. They'd likely be box culverts, but setting up the road so that when the water gets high enough, the water flows over the road. So when we had the debris flow event on the 25th, it actually jumped up onto Meander and was flowing down Meander. It jumped up onto Gavelin and was flowing around the maintenance building there. So if we do have high flows, let's get it so that it stays in this dip as much as possible. So the road abutments would be higher than the road crossing itself, and then we could put up don't drive through this area when there's high flows or water flowing over this. And with how fast storms dissipate here, we'll have flows over there for 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour, and then it should go back into the culvert. So, we have to have an engineer evaluate it, but this is what I'm kind of thinking in my mind for that site. Warrior Drive on the right side is pre-debris flows. On the left side is the after effects of the July 25th. But you can see that the water went all the way up here. It flooded over Warrior Drive. But this culvert here being undersized, this one, our H&H study recommended 1 8 by 10 foot box culvert to pass all the water. But this culvert being undersized actually saved Meander Drive and all of those assets, because all that water would have came rushing down at the same time.
Oh, gotcha.
So what we can look at is, so rather than having one big culvert, we can have a reasonable, good-sized culvert, and then when you get higher flows, you can have smaller culverts that help it spill. So right now, Warrior Drive is low enough that the high flows went over the top of the road. We could potentially just elevate the road a little bit, put in a row of smaller, like 2-foot culverts, and then when you have that water back up in there, it flows into those culverts and doesn't go over the road. But then we still have that holding capacity where we buffer that first rush. So when you think about stormwater management, you have a storm and everything peaks. So we want to lower that peak as much as possible, because the worst damaging flows are only just for like a minute or so. That very high peak flow. So if we can do anything to hold back that, will benefit the lower down. So in our instance, Meander and Gavelin Canyon Bridge.
Okay, now the discussion of the coffer dam, is that above that, or is that still in the mix?
So that's above that. And so after the debris flows calm down for the Gavelin Canyon sediment basins, we'll regrade that site so that it's a flat meadow area, and we should start getting some different facultative wetland species. It won't be like a moist wetland, but it'll be like a wet meadow in that area. And then we'll have the very last berm in that site is going to be maintained, and it's going to hold the grade so that that whole channel lifts up. But we might be able to just leave the current culvert as it is, and then add these supplemental culverts, and then use it for stormwater management.
And so will it be like Stinking Springs? Kind of like down below Grindstone?
Well, if you're running through it, yes, it will.
Stinking Springs 2.
But Eric, that design, wouldn't that still be at risk of getting blocked by debris flow?
Correct. Yeah. So that's why we're going to get everything engineered, and so it might be that,
But you know that's gonna happen.
Yeah. So by us restoring the floodplain capacity in that stretch above Warrior Drive, you get debris to fall out when it gets to that floodplain because the water slows down. You get the logs, the sticks, they should fall out, and you won't have that push forward to the rest of the culverts.
But the cofferdam up from that will pick up a lot of that, slow it down, right? And that's what you're talking about,
That's what it's
pushing
doing.
it over
That's what
into
it's
the
doing
meadow?
now. But when the project is done and we close out our special use permit with the Forest Service and we regrade that area, the channel's gonna be elevated and it will be reconnected with that floodplain bench. So when we do have high flows, it will flood out into that meadow area, and then you'll have all of that debris precipitate out, the woody material.
Then you just go by and pick it up whenever it's, yeah.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you don't have any other assets that would be a threat in that area? You don't have no homes or anything else? That's the best place to catch that debris.
Yeah, okay.
So let's use natural processes to help with our assets, and that would be one of them.
Okay.
So Gavilan Canyon Bridge, looking at replacing it with a single span bridge, like we've been doing to other ones, and so it will allow the flows and the debris flows to flow under. But one thing that a lot of people don't really think about is this drop off from this bridge. This is the biggest impediment to aquatic life passage on the Rio Dosa. So basically fish, aquatic bugs, any type of aquatic organisms cannot get past this bridge. And so as we redo it, we'll be able to do a transition from this lower grade to the ball field stretch of the river. So we'll have a transitional, like tiered of fish habitat structures that will allow fish passage through that. So we'll get both the benefit of passing debris, and then we'll also restore that fish passage. And then Gavilan Canyon Road near Janet Drive, this one finally got hit by the debris flows today. So this is about 25 feet here, and this was from today's event. This was all the way to the top of the road.
Oh, man.
Here's some debris flows that are coming in here, but there's just this tiny 36-inch culvert here. And then they put in this emergency overflow to try to prevent it as best as possible from flowing over the road. This area, based on the H&H study, the hydraulics and hydrology, I believe needed a 8 by 6 foot box culvert. But again, let's see if we can use this to slow down stormwater. Maybe an undersized culvert isn't that bad. We just need to have a way better spillover than just one little culvert hanging up there in the air. So getting it properly engineered, I think we can buffer some of the stormwater. So Janet Drive probably helped out a lot of the property owners from Janet Drive down to Warrior Drive. Buffered a lot of it because I was watching the storm event. It rained a lot in the upper port. So like around Alto Cafe and Treatment Plant 3, it rained a lot. And that's where a lot of that water came down from. So that's it. I just wanted to have a little bit of visual aid so you guys kind of.
Yeah, that sure helped.
That was really good.
Huh?
How far were the backups this afternoon?
Like in Gavilan Canyon, it was, in Warrior Drive, there was just, everything was full of water. Even our basins were full. It was flowing over Warrior Drive. Janet Drive was spilling over. Adam, you said you had some minor stuff at Meander, but because a lot of the debris washed down in the July 25th event, he didn't have any clogs, and he said he had his guy out there with a backhoe, and they were just preventatively scooping in front of the culvert.
So, like Eric said, everything kind of stopped. The debris dams that were built helped. Janet Drive actually stopped a lot of debris, and Warrior Drive. By the time we got to Meander, we had some flows over the road, but it was manageable, and it only happened for maybe 10 minutes.
Again, that emphasis of the peak flow, if you can reduce that short little window, that's where you have most of your flooding, is that short little window.
Did it flood by the ball fields?
Yes, ma'am. We had the waters coming from actual Cedar Creek also, so
Yeah.
we had 3 ways of, waterways of water coming in there, so it did flood over, but again, the guys were there, it didn't, go on the road, actually just going over the bridge.
Well, Frank said at White Mountain, 1.7 inches.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. Rodney, what's the plan? Just, I know there's spreading out, but he said the softball field, because that's pretty well, that sediment's gonna ruin that, yes?
Oh, it's,
So the softball fields didn't get hit this time.
Oh, okay.
but previously it was
But
all mud.
previously they did. What's the plan?
Unfortunately, we've been praying for sun for that field. They've
Yeah.
tried to remove it, and it's been too wet and too slick. We had a few dry days where they could remove some of it, but we're gonna have to wait for it to dry
How do you
out.
remove it?
We're just trying to be skilled with a front-end loader.
Without ripping the grass off?
We're gonna,
Oh, man, that's a
we plan on
mess.
reseeding it afterwards, but we'll do our best, get our best operator to skim that off the top, and we'll reseed it.
Wow, wow.
And luckily you've got a season. I mean, we got a time to go, but.
Okay.
Eric, at the Gavilan Bridge by the ball fields, putting in a span bridge there, that's gonna allow more debris to flow. Is that just gonna create a problem downstream for another location?
So, hopefully, with some of the other improvements with the Emergency Watershed Protection Program, and then Chris Phillips with Riverbend Engineering and Christella and I are putting in for a River Stewardship Program grant that we're going to use to leverage some FEMA funds, hopefully competitive FEMA funds. We're going to be doing quite a bit of improvements on the Rio Dosa and restoring some floodplain connectivity where it's safe to, and where people, adjacent landowners are actually willing to participate with us. And so again, hoping to get some of those floodplain benches where you can get the flows to wash out and you can get some of that heavy debris to fall out. But as it is right now, yes, where the debris would flow through and go to the next.
Just push it down the road.
Yeah.
Maybe being the track.
Yeah, and that's why the track had all the backhoes down there a while ago.
Or the mobile home park behind Big O Tires, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a span bridge.
Yeah,
Is that a span there?
Freedom Bloom Bridge would pass those.
Close
flows.
Road and Freedom Bloom.
Yeah, that close road's a nice big span.
Yeah.
Adam, on Meander, where the bridge is there, was that car still pulled out and stuck in the mud? When I came here today, right between Meander, no, but on Reese, so the bridge at Reese, so between Reese and Meander, some idiot in a car decided to pull up in that area and they were stuck.
I didn't go that way. I went through Meander and Gavilan.
I didn't know.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve task order RFP number 2023-001P-01 with DuBose and King Incorporated for professional engineering services for the preliminary design for Gavilan Canyon Bridge and culverts in an amount not to exceed $229,875.72, including gross receipts tax.
Discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Solis?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on. Am I in trouble on number 14, Counselor Cook?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Hawthorne.
Because, I saw the attorney show up. Item number, okay. Item number 15, discussion and possible action on adoption of resolution 2022-36, a resolution adopting the Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan, ICIP, for fiscal years 2024, 2028. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This is our planning document to be submitted to DFA. It's an annual document. The other one's attached in the agenda packet is just giving permission to access and populate our projects. And then the resolution supporting our project list. Today, what I was looking for would be ranking of the projects in this list that include input from the directors that have capital projects, as well as input from our 2 public meetings that we held last week.
Any questions?
Do you need a motion?
Yep.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2022-36, a resolution adopting the Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan, ICIP, for fiscal years 2024 through 2028.
Second.
Discussion? So when will we see the items, and when will we be able to start ranking them?
Ron sent out an email.
Yeah.
You did?
I got an email the other day.
I didn't
And
even,
it's got all the rankings on there.
Mayor, that's maybe one of the things you consider right now, before you.
do y'all,
Under
did you
discussion.
like what it said?
It's kind of the same old.
Did you read them off to me? I don't know how I missed that one.
Just the first 10.
Workforce housing, broadband, fiber connectivity, water, sewer line extensions and streets and drainage, sidewalk and lighting improvements of Sudworth Drive, outdoor recreation infrastructure, removal of trees and watershed improvements, park signage project, fire mitigation projects on village property, renewable energy at village facilities, and community recreation and trail improvements.
Okay, that was the top 10?
That's top 10.
Mayor, I just want to bring one thing up, and I don't know where that fell under, but the sewer line project and the bridge projects, are those listed in the top 10?
Nope.
Sewer line is 11.
I thought that sewer line is 11.
We still have a $3 million gap on that project.
Yep.
Okay, and then the bridges were,
Replacement is 15.
well, 14,
13,
14,
I
15,
think.
15, yes.
Well, the sewer line extensions is not the sewer line.
Correct.
See, you got sewer line
Hazard
extensions is number
mitigation.
11.
Oh, and sewer line rehabilitation, that's 16.
And bridge is 15.
Yeah. The Ruidosa Recreation Center, what is that exactly? It's 13, so that's not in the top 10. But I think that we need to look at that gap that we have. So what additional sidewalk and lighting improvements are we looking at on Sudworth? The bike pedestrian?
Upper circle, upper.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
where
that
up
end.
there at the.
And the park signage project, does that have anything to do with the wayfinding money that we're talking about earlier?
Currently, we have design money, but that would.
That would be actual installation and purchase and, do we need the broadband connectivity since we've got funding and we've got, funding money coming in on that one?
Mayor, I would recommend that we still keep that in the top 10. The project that we're recommending right now is the last mile, and they have still what they call the mid-mile, and that's where some of our problem is at. So I would recommend that broadband stay in the top 10, but your sewer and bridges needs to be somewhere in the top 5.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at. I don't know where. Workforce housing.
Workforce housing should be top 10.
Yeah.
Is number 1 workforce housing, then broadband.
Community recreation and trail programs. parking structure for Main Street, I guess you got 10 million in there.
That's 12.
If you would like, I could move the bridge replacement and sewer line rehabilitation up to like 3 and 4 and then just slide everything down one.
Well, that's the best recommendation I think you're gonna get, because you can talk about the rest of them.
Okay.
The renewable energy, you might, what number is it?
That's 9. That would go down to 11 then.
Yep.
So, okay, I can do that.
Because I know we've got that gap on all that we're really gonna have to be staring that down. Since we've got the PER, don't we have the bridges? We've assigned the engineering and then, so. Okay,
Yes, thank you.
everybody good with that?
Yep,
Yep.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I already motioned.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will.
Roll call. Ron?
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Item number 16, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2022-40, a resolution amending ordinances 2014-06, Village of Ruidoso Personnel Policies, Chapter 1 through 4. We had Counselors Butterman and Coughlin on this
If you
board.
don't mind, Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion
Okay,
to postpone this to our next meeting.
okay. On the grounds that we still don't know what we're doing?
We were meeting yesterday, still making some edits, and the council hasn't had the opportunity to
Read
do
it.
the entire thing.
Okay.
A second.
And it's something that you need to read.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second.
Second.
And then we have any discussion. So this one will go to the next meeting, Ron? Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, so,
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor
Thank you,
Salas,
Cheryl. Thank you.
Me?
yes.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So that brings us to the end of the regular open session. Now we'll need a motion to move into closed session, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move we move into closed session with discussion of limited personnel matters citing 1015-1H2 NMSA 1978. Discussion subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation, which the Village of Ruidoso is or may become a participant, citing 1015-187 NMSA 1978, and further discussion of the purchase, acquisition, and/or disposal of real property and/or water rights by the Village of Ruidoso, citing 1015-1H8 NMSA 1978. Any action taken as a result of the closed session will be brought back into open session.
Second.
And no animals were harmed in this production. You got that one. Okay, we got a motion and a second.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
If
Thank
I
you.
could read that fast, I'd be a doctor too.
No, you can't write that fast.
Thank you guys for staying. I know you don't have a choice, but glad you were here anyway.
Mayor, I recommend that we invite Judy and then also Rodney in.
Okay. And then we'll reconvene as soon as we're out of closed session.